need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
Only cowards see shades of gray.
Smells at me.
Martial law is in effect. Jubilation authorized entry.
Double KO!
Horsemen of Apocalypse don't go down so easy.
Here they come.
Never heard.
Soy el final. Again. Yo soy el final.
They thought they got rid of me? Really?
Oh, bueno, querido, anyway.
We only have one support. Be careful, bro. Oh, what the fuck?
We got 2 support.
Oh, EJ had just died. Jubilee had just died.
Oh, you mean at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment.
They'll spread out.
Fucking Namor. Sweet. What's up, people? Oh, shit, give him a play from Dagger.
Don't go down so easy.
30 seconds.
And then I'll ulti in the middle of the... Oh no, I'm stuck on the fucking thing. That's ridiculous.
The current score is 0.
Using it the worst.
0. Time to switch things up.
Shouldn't happen. You should be able to jump or something in it. Playing upwards or something.
Make all the difference.
Cover your ears. Jubilee is here.
Round 2.
Screw the light. Cover your ears.
Oh,
Jubilee
no.
is here.
The
We're not winning.
Stay strong.
Who are you calling a raccoon?
What is the name by Lord Good?
Groot's always with me. You'll see what I mean.
Then I guess it's a good thing I only need one of them to take you out.
Fuck that. I know cousins, man.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have to stop them from securing the mission area. Well, you can't expect to win them all.
Alright, we have to win the next 2.
Gonna take a little break.
Right. Okay.
I'll be back when
Her.
Everybody needs a hand sometimes. Or a
Going to overtime! My time to shine! I'll sketch the world! My time to shine!
Lights out.
We are undefeatable!
Armed and dangerous! Face oblivion!
Lights out.
Get ready. There's a cold snap coming. Seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Must be nice looking down on the city from that fancy tower of yours, Richards.
The people of New York are our family. The Fantastic Four have always treated them as equals.
Sure, Hefe. Last I checked, you got a flying car. My parents could barely afford a Metro card.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
If anyone gets to see the sunrise, I promise it'll be us.
Oh, here they are now.
Mucho mejor.
Lights out.
As good as new.
Tandy needs help.
Let's head.
Not so yet,
Area is yours now.
Lights out.
The mission area is yours. Everybody needs a hand sometimes. Or a dagger.
Back in the game.
Lights out.
Mucho mejor. Much better.
Problem solved!
Oh, I'm fine. Don't mind me.
You're only one.
Still got an edge.
I am a true team player.
Life consumes you. You've captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going.
Put a relief! Perhaps you should go anymore.
My turn to shine.
I feel like myself again. Bring on the chaos.
Maximum pulse!
Yours. Get ready. My turn to shine.
Lights out.
Us against the world.
Oh, I'm fine. Don't mind me.
I think that was
Lights out.
going to overtime.
Can you confirm that the show is real?
Yes.
You're in it. You're There's no last people. You like the show. Everyone that comes up, they see the show. It's a crazy thing. So many people think it's like we're staging something. Are we staging something?
Yeah.
Are you guys paid actors?
Actually, his dad said that you guys were staging it.
See? That's makeup, the shit that comes on this stuff.
That comes on because you think that it was good. I believe it. Say that it's master. Prasad Taylor is one of his production teams because not only do we give like these financial discussions, much diligence, but then also these relationship discussions as well as the finances that those things are tightly coupled in terms of their effectiveness. Right? Not a word you created it between someone.
If the rules are right. Okay. Yeah, okay, so here's the messages. This is what you stumbled across?
You're showing too much.
Oh.
Don't show too much. Oh, God.
Wait, I thought that's one of my street house songs.
I saw some of the
This is like the videos messages.
There's also Snapchat.
Yeah, I did block him on Snapchat because he came into the room and was like, "Do you actually love me?" And I said yes. And he's like, "Then block him."
Okay. Who's... Okay, are you Goth Witch?
I am.
You say 9 my love 9 kids.
Oh, God.
What?
He's gonna read it out.
What is that?
This is cool. You
to her house on February 6th so she could pick up some of her belongings. When they arrived, Randy was gone, but he had cut up her clothing and had smashed a bunch of her little figurines. When that deputy was interviewed, he said he had never been to Robin's house. When investigators searched her storage unit, they found those very figurines packed in boxes wrapped in newspaper that was issued on February 7th, the day after she claimed to have found them smashed. The detective also showed Joan Robin's 1991 tax filings where she listed a 1-year-old daughter named Tara Rowe as a dependent, but that child never existed. Robin was actually committing tax fraud. Once Joan realized that her friend had been lying to her, she admitted that she had heard the shower and the clothes washer about an hour before Robin woke her up and asked her to go check on her house. That timeline fit the sighting by the paper delivery person earlier that morning. It would have been reasonable for Robin to have driven to her duplex, started the fire, driven back to Joan's apartment, showered and washed her clothes to remove any smell of smoke, then woke Joan up. It would match up with when the neighbor smelled smoke and called the fire department. The detective asked if Joan would record the next phone call she received from Robin from jail, and Joan agreed. That call came on March 20th, where Joan told Robin that she had woken up at about 3:30 a.m. on the morning of the fire and went downstairs, but Robin wasn't there. Robin claimed she was outside talking to her psychiatrist who had driven there to talk to her. In another phone call later the same day, Robin repeated that she was outside talking to her psychiatrist, but she refused to say who the doctor was, meaning that alibi was never able to be corroborated. Why exactly would Robin be so adamant about not revealing who her psychiatrist was, to the point of being convicted of multiple murder? Well, by the end of the trial, it would be obvious that the doctor didn't exist. On March 23, 1992, Robin Rowe was arrested for the 3 counts of first-degree murder, and since she was already in jail, they didn't have far to go to process her. Her trial began in February of 1993, and a very eerie thing happened when the lawyers started the process of jury selection. One of the people who had been called to jury duty had been Randy Rowe. His name had still been in the system, and he was called up to serve on the jury at his own murder trial. It's safe to say he would probably be disqualified due to bias. Over the next few weeks, the prosecution laid out all of Robin's lies and the fact that, coincidentally, all of those lies hid some detail that would make her look guilty of setting fire to her house and murdering her husband and 2 children. Though the evidence was circumstantial, it was extremely damning, and her defense didn't have a great argument to counter it. They tried to claim Randy was really abusive, but didn't have any evidence. Their main method of creating reasonable doubt was to claim that Randy was suicidal and it was he who set fire to the house, but none of his actions prior to the fire backed that up. The jury ended up finding Robin guilty on all counts. For her sentencing, the prosecutor cited 7 of the 10 aggravating circumstances that would make her eligible for the death penalty. 1. At the time the murder was committed, the defendant also committed another murder. 2. The defendant knowingly created a great risk of death to many people. The fire could have killed her neighbors or any of the firefighters who responded. 3. The murder was committed for remuneration. That meant Robin was going to get money due to the murder. 4. The murder was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity. 5. By the murder or circumstances surrounding its commission, the defendant exhibited utter disregard for human life. 6. The murder was one defined as murder of the first degree. 7. The defendant, by prior conduct or conduct in the commission of the murder at hand, has exhibited a propensity to commit murder which will probably constitute a continuing threat to society. Of course, the defense tried to pull out the mental health card and cited a number of stories about past abuse that they were told by Robin, but there was no evidence any of them were true. With Robin's track record with the truth, it's more likely they weren't. Then suddenly, on the 4th day of sentencing, Robin was allowed to make a statement where she claimed she had committed the arson, but had blocked it out due to trauma. It was seen as a last-minute attempt to gain mercy from the court, but she didn't get it. Robin Rowe was sentenced to death. The Idaho Statesman took a poll after the sentence was announced, and 91% of those polled agreed with the punishment. Of course, that doesn't mean Robin has been executed. Another convicted murderer in Idaho elected to forego his appeals and asked to be executed right away. Robin claimed she'd do the same if she also received the death penalty, but she didn't. She spent most of her time on death row appealing her sentence. She's tried to claim she suffered from cerebral atrophy that impacted her decision-making at the time of the murders, but all of her appeals have been denied. Robin Rowe not only annihilated her family in 1992 in order to claim insurance payouts, but she had been gradually annihilating her family throughout the years as she continued to have children. This is one of the few cases where a family annihilator killed members of their family gradually over time. But in this case, Robin continued having children and adding members to the very family she was annihilating. To most people, they see their spouse, siblings, and especially children as sources of love and happiness. But to a monster like Robin Rowe, she just saw them as potential income. Thanks so much for letting me tell you this story. If you're a fan of true crime, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave a comment. If you'd like to support the show, check out our merchandise at thisismonsters.com. The link is in the description. Thanks again, and be safe.
Ready?
Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm your narrator, Giles with a J, and we're on Season 22, Family Annihilators Part 2. I already did a season of Family Annihilators years ago, and you can check the description for a link to a playlist of all of those videos. Otherwise, on the show. In the late 20th century, Martin Bergen became known as one of the greatest major league catchers of all time. Unfortunately, that success didn't stop his mental illness from taking over his life, and in a time where mental health care was almost non-existent, nothing would stop him from annihilating his whole family. This is Monsters. Martin Bergen was born in the small town of North Brookfield, Massachusetts on October 25, 1871. He was the third of 6 children of Michael and Anne Bergen. His parents had immigrated to the U.S. from Ireland shortly after the end of the Civil War. His baseball talent showed up early in his childhood. North Brookfield's peaceful environment shaped Bergen's younger years. He spent time in local fields working on his baseball skills and building strength for his future career. Natural athletic ability and quick reflexes made him perfect for catching, though nobody could have guessed how far he would go in professional baseball. He played on a local team called the Brookfields when he was a teenager, and other players said he tended to be obsessive about small details. Martin's frame was perfect for a catcher. As an adult, he stood 5 foot 10 inches or 177 centimeters tall and weighed 170 pounds or 77 kilograms. That build gave him enough power to handle the physical demands, yet kept him agile enough to move quickly behind the plate. Martin started in the minors, catching for the Salem Witches in 1892. He played 59 games over one season and then spent a few years playing with various teams. Harriet Gaines, who went by Hattie, had moved to North Brookfield in 1892 for a job in a flour mill. She met Martin and the couple dated for a time before marrying on July 11th, 1893. They would go on to have 3 children. Martin Jr. was born in 1894, Florence in 1895, and Joseph in 1897. The couple ended up purchasing a farm which they called Snowball Farm. Martin joined the Boston Bean Eaters in 1896. Back then, many of the major national teams had other names, such as the Cleveland Spiders or the Brooklyn Bridegrooms. His first season with the Bean Eaters showed Boston they had found someone special. He soon became the team's main catcher during their championship runs in 1897 and 1898. His presence proved crucial to Boston's success in what became a golden age of baseball for the team. Martin quickly proved himself a defensive genius behind the plate. His throwing became legendary, so accurate and powerful that it scared off even the boldest base stealers. He also built great chemistry with Boston's pitching staff and handled their different pitching styles expertly. Martin held his own at bat throughout his career. His .265 lifetime batting average was solid for a catcher in that era. His 4-season career included 44 doubles, 15 triples, and 10 home runs in 344 games. Those numbers backed up his defensive excellence nicely. Team managers valued Martin's technical skills and baseball smarts. He knew how to read opposing batters and control game flow. That made him like having another coach on the field. In 1897, other players started noticing some troubling behavior with their teammate. Martin's paranoia showed itself in alarming ways on the baseball diamond. He often accused his teammates of plotting against him. The troubled player suspected team management had created schemes to destroy his career. He refused to use signals from coaches during games because he thought they wanted to sabotage his performance. His attention would drift as he nervously scanned the stadium, searching for threats he imagined among the spectators. The catcher's relationships with teammates grew worse faster away from the public view. His friendly interactions turned into unpredictable outbursts and accusations. Players said Martin ate by himself and wouldn't touch the team's food because he feared it was poison. His final season saw him pull away from teammates who used to be his friends. Players remembered how Martin would suddenly leave team gatherings without any explanation, which pushed him further from the group. Boston's respected manager Frank Salee saw how serious Martin's condition was and tried several times to help. Team records show Frank quietly asked medical professionals about Martin's unstable behavior. The team's worry grew, especially when Martin started carrying a revolver. He claimed he needed it to protect himself from enemies that only seemed to exist in his mind. Several players told management they felt unsafe around Martin, particularly during road trips when his paranoia seemed worse. The teams tried hard to help their troubled catcher, but nothing worked. Martin's mental state kept getting worse despite management's support. His exceptional play on the field stood in stark contrast to his increasingly unstable behavior off it during his final season. That created an atmosphere of tension and uncertainty in the clubhouse. The young star who once earned praise for his baseball skills now made those closest to him feel afraid and worried. Near the end of the 1898 season, there was an altercation between Martin and some of his teammates where he threatened to club them to death. So it seemed their fear was justified. 1899 saw some events that likely caused Martin's mental health to suffer further. In January, he underwent hip surgery to remove an abscess, and though the surgery was not said to have any effect on his ability to play baseball, people around him said that he was never the same. Then, on April 24th, 5-year-old Martin Jr. died of diphtheria, and Martin found out while he was playing a game in Washington, D.C. He took 2 weeks off from the team, and a neighbor recalled him saying, quote, "It's pretty tough that my boy should be taken away, but it seems a great deal harder still to think that I should just get home in time to see him being taken out of the door and box." When Martin returned to the team, he was hostile toward his teammates, claiming they were making jokes about him behind his back. At that point, he started sitting sideways and walking in a strange manner. He He said it was so he would be able to spot assassins approaching from either side. When the season was over, he told his doctor that he was having strange ideas and that he was afraid he was not right in the head. He recalled a man having approached him after a winning game and giving him a cigar, but he said he never smoked it because he thought it was poison. He eventually started to believe that his wife and his doctor were conspiring to poison him. That's why he refused to take any medication his doctor prescribed. One thing he did do, though, was to take his doctor's advice and quit chewing tobacco. The nicotine only worsened his anxiety, and after he quit, people did notice he seemed a little better, but that didn't last. The Bergen family had eaten a hearty meal on January 18, 1900, as evidenced by the unwashed dishes in the sink. Martin woke up early and started his morning routine. He removed ashes from the kitchen stove and placed paper inside to light it. Before he could fetch wood from outside, something snapped. Medical examiners later describe it as a psychiatric episode, and one source reported it as a temporary moment of insanity, though it seems clear that his mental health had been declining for years. Martin grabbed an axe and let loose a brutal attack on his sleeping family. Martin first attacked his wife Hattie in the bedroom. He struck her in the head repeatedly with the axe's blunt side. Her body was found with raised hands, showing she tried to defend herself from the blows. He then struck his 3-year-old son Joseph once with the axe's sharp edge. The rampage ended in the kitchen, where Martin killed his 6-year-old daughter Florence with multiple blows to her head. After killing his family, he stood before a mirror and sliced his throat with a razor. Michael Bergen was supposed to start living with his son and his family on January 18th, but when he arrived, Martin got into a fight with him, and Michael ended up sleeping in the barn. At around 9 a.m., Michael got up and went into the farmhouse, but it was locked and everything was quiet. It was unusual, but Michael went about doing chores and collecting milk. By noon, there was still no sign of the Bergens, so he was able to get into the house through a connected shed. He walked into the kitchen and found his son and granddaughter lying in pools of blood on the floor. The bedroom revealed an even more horrifying sight: the bodies of his daughter-in-law and grandson. After the shock subsided, Michael told his other children about the tragedy before alerting local authorities. Constable Arnold F. Wallace took control of the crime scene and called the medical examiner to pick up the bodies. The medical report confirmed that axe wounds to the head killed all 3 victims. The murder weapon was found leaning against a doorway. Martin died of a self-inflicted wound to his throat, and it appeared he died of extensive bleeding from the jugular vein and carotid artery. The cut was so deep that his head nearly separated from his body. News of Martin Bergen's horrific actions spread fast through the baseball world and brought out shock from former teammates who had seen his deteriorating mental state firsthand. St. Joseph's Church saw about 800 mourners inside on January 21st, 1900, while an equal number stood outside of the grave. The baseball community's absence was notable. Martin's funeral drew only 2 professional players: Connie Mack, Milwaukee's team manager at the time, and Billy Hamilton, Martin's road roommate and Boston's center fielder. Other Bean Eaters players said they thought the service would happen on Sunday. The Greek funeral ceremony had young men who played with Martin before his professional career as pallbearers. The service received just one floral arrangement from T.H. Murnane, a sympathetic sports writer. He sent 28 white flowers with a note that read, quote, "May these flowers speak a word of charity for Martin Bergen, who has done this insane deed." Baseball historians now view Martin Bergen's case through a modern medical perspective. Frank Russo observed, quote, "If he were alive today, he most surely would be diagnosed with some sort of clinical depression or perhaps borderline personality disorder." He added that Martin showed strong signs of schizophrenia in late 1899, but that just wasn't something that got an accurate diagnosis over 125 years ago. Today's MLB actively promotes mental health awareness, unlike the silence that surrounded Martin's mental illness. The League has built mutually beneficial alliances with Crisis Text Line to provide 24/7 confidential support. Baseball has changed a lot, with players like Boston's Jaron Duran openly talking about their personal battles with depression and suicidal thoughts. North Brookfield responded to the tragedy by expanding mental health education. Though Martin Bergen thought that he was in danger from other people, it was ironically him who took an axe to his wife and children. He lived in fear that a monster was going to kill him, but in the end, he ended up being the monster. Thanks so much for letting me tell you this story. If you're a fan of true crime, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave a comment. If you'd like to support the show, check out our merchandise at thisismonsters.com. The link is in the description. Thanks again, and be safe.
I wake up in last place. I need the power of Old Spice. First place smells good.
Familicide is the act of murdering close family members, usually in a single event. In a world where true crime has become a very popular entertainment genre, the perpetrator is usually referred to as a family annihilator. Now, the label is regularly placed on a person who just kills their children, but for this season, I haven't been using those stories since I've already done the theme of filicide, which is a parent murdering their own children. Similarly, if a child only kills their parents, that would fit more in the theme of parricide. For this season, I've tried to make sure each case includes the murder of multiple types of family members: a spouse and children, a parent and children, a parent and siblings. You know, really mixing up the family annihilation. That's what I looked for when I compiled my list of cases for the season, and like before, there are stories that just don't have a ton of details, so I'm going to tell you about them here. Without further ado, here are 5 family annihilators. Ricardo Barreda was a dentist in La Plata, Argentina, just southwest of Buenos Aires. On November 15, 1992, he got up early and told his wife he was going to clean the cobwebs off the ceiling. In his later confession, he claimed that he had suffered years of abuse at the hands of his wife, Gladys, his daughters, Adriana and Cecilia, and his mother-in-law, Elena Breche. He intended to put in some extra work to impress his wife, but she just continued belittling him. At that point, he went to the closet to get a hat, but that's when he saw his shotgun and snapped. He pulled the weapon out, loaded it, and placed more shells in his pocket. He went to the kitchen where 57-year-old Gladys and 24-year-old Adriana were. He shot his wife first and then turned the shotgun on his youngest daughter. When his 86-year-old mother-in-law heard the booming shots, she came down the stairs where she too was shot. Then 26-year-old Cecilia ran to her grandmother's body and yelled at her father, but it was no use. She was also killed. Then Ricardo walked around the house and picked up the spent shells. He put them into a box and placed it into the trunk of his car. At that point, he started throwing stuff around, knocking over furniture and scattering papers. His plan was to stage the scene and then claim his family had died in a botched robbery. Once he was finished, he drove downtown and tossed the shotgun shells into a storm drain. Then he drove to a canal and threw in the shotgun. Once that was complete, the next stop of his plan was to go to the zoo. I guess he wanted to have a reason he was out of the house, so he spent time at the zoo and then met his mistress, Hilda Bono, at a hotel. He returned home at midnight where he found the scene exactly how he had left it. He alerted the authorities and told them the story of the robbery. The police did not believe him, and after his story fell apart, he confessed to the murders, but claimed he was insane at the time. During the trial, an expert said he was suffering from delusional psychosis at the time of the killings. But Ricardo Barreto was found guilty of 3 counts of aggravated homicide and was sentenced to life in prison. In 2008, Ricardo was granted house arrest, which caused a great deal of controversy in the area. In 2016, he was granted conditional release. He died of natural causes in a nursing home in 2020 at the age of 83. Nobody is completely immune from financial problems. Sure, sometimes bad decisions can lead to them, but the economy, sudden job loss, death in the family, and even a major accident can throw you into a financial tailspin. It's not clear why the Kane family was having financial difficulties, but it had led to the foreclosure of their home in New Richmond, Ohio in 2023. The eviction process was not sudden, and the sheriff's deputies had coordinated to get the family out of the house on February 23rd. They had spoken to 46-year-old Teresa Kane the day before, and she assured them that there would be no resistance and the family had somewhere to go. Deputies arrived at the house at 9:40 a.m. on the 27th, where Teresa was standing on the front porch. She asked them if she could have 2 more hours to finish up, but when the deputies started walking toward her, she went back into the house. She retrieved a .38 caliber revolver, and first she approached her husband, 40-year-old Stephen Kane. She shot and killed him, and then went upstairs. There she shot and killed her son, 13-year-old Ethan, and her father, 74-year-old William Felton. Then she shot her daughter, 20-year-old Samantha, but she didn't die. Obviously, deputies outside heard gunshots and made entry into the house, where Teresa fired 5 shots in quick succession. It's believed that she was trying to scare the deputies away, and a few seconds later, she ended her own life with a gunshot to the head. Deputies found Samantha and rushed her to the hospital, where she ended up in a coma. They noted that nothing in the home had been packed, and they believed that Teresa kept the foreclosure from her family. They never knew that they were about to be forced out of their home, and she killed them all before they ever knew what was happening. Samantha awoke from her coma a few days later and underwent a very slow recovery. It was also noted that Stephen was a member of a local thrash metal band called Critical Chaos. Semirate, Italy is in the north end of the country, northwest of Milan. It was there that Alessandro Maia, who owned his own surveying company, lived with his family. Wife, 57-year-old Stefania Pavetta, daughter, 16-year-old Julia, and son, 23-year-old Nicola. According to people who knew Alessandro, he was obsessed with money. On top of that, he seemed to think his wife, who worked as a hairdresser, spent too much money. It was reported that he felt he was a failure, and he believed his family was on the brink of financial disaster. At the beginning of May, Julia told her grandfather that she had found her father sitting on her bed crying. When she approached him, he began apologizing. The motive has not been confirmed, but authorities believe that Alessandro thought he could stave off financial ruin by getting rid of his family. At about 6 a.m. on May 4th, 2022, neighbors heard screams coming from the Maia residence. When they went to check on them, they saw Alessandro's legs sticking out of the front door. He was in his underwear, laying on the floor, half out of the house, covered in blood. The neighbors alerted authorities, and an ambulance arrived on the scene first. At some point, Alessandro started screaming, quote, "I killed them all, bastards." When the paramedics heard that, they called in police officers. Inside the home, Alessandro had attacked his family with a knife, a hammer, a drill, and a screwdriver. Investigators believe Stefania was killed first. She had been sleeping on the sofa because she had contracted COVID-19. What kind of jerk has his sick wife sleep on the couch while he stays in the bed? First, be a decent guy and let your wife be more comfortable. Second, if someone is sick, wouldn't you want them to be in a room to minimize other people catching it? Not being sick on a couch in a main living space. What a putz. Anyway, it's believed that he struck his wife with a hammer and then stabbed her in the throat. Then he went upstairs to Julia's room where he hit her on the head with a hammer. In Nicolo's room, Alessandro attacked his son with a drill before cutting his own wrists with a knife. He then crawled downstairs to the front door where he was seen by his neighbors. Nicolo survived his wounds but was permanently disabled. Alessandro was arrested and found guilty of murdering his wife and daughter. He was sentenced to life in prison. In the world of online gaming, it's common to make friends with people around the world. Unfortunately, many of them are people you never know in real life, and they may not be the best people. When players noticed a gamer by the screen named Manaz starting to claim he was going to kill his family, they thought he was joking. Obviously, that's a horrible thing to joke about, but it's not uncommon for people on the internet to try to be shocking to get attention. So other players, people who thought of him as a friend, shrugged it off. Then one morning, one of those players got a message on Discord that read, quote, "I just slaughtered my entire family and will most likely spend my life in jail if I manage to survive. I hope I made you laugh at one point or another. I hope you remember the good times. I will miss you all." When the player asked what he meant, Manaz sent him pictures of his family members dead on the floor. At that point, the friend group started trying to put together all the information they had on Manaz. They contacted the police and pointed them in the direction of the murders. On July 28, 2019, police did a welfare check on the home of Manaz Saban in Markham, Ontario, Canada. Inside, they found the bodies of his sister, 21-year-old Melissa Zaman, his father, 51-year-old Maniro Zaman, his mother, 50-year-old Momtaz Begum, and his grandmother, 70-year-old Feroza Begum. Manaz was arrested and ended up pleading guilty, explaining how the murders took place. He said he hit all of his victims on the head with a crowbar, then sliced their throats when they were on the ground. His online friends said that his message in the game became increasingly anti-Muslim, and it's believed that he killed his family to be free of strict rules. After the murders, one player asked him what he was going to do, and he said, quote, "Eat junk food, visit my ex-girlfriend, drink, smoke. I've never drank alcohol or a cigarette." He also admitted that his parents thought he was attending university, but he wasn't. His family thought he was graduating on July 28th, so he killed them the night before. He was sentenced to life in prison with parole eligibility after 40 years. It's fair to say that anybody who wants to kill their entire family is suffering from some form of mental illness. That's just not the desire of someone who's firing on all cylinders. Sometimes mental health issues just seem to run in the family. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. We're starting a new season this week, Season 22, Family Annihilators Part 2. I did a season of Family Annihilators already, but there are so many of those pesky buggers that I'm doing a new season. There's a link to the playlist of Season 4 Family Annihilators in the description. Check out my merch, which there's also a link to in the description, and hit like and subscribe. Now, enjoy the show. In the early hours of the morning on August 7th, 1985, local police in Essex, England were alerted to an incident happening at White House Farm in the small village of Person Darcy. According to a man named Jeremy Bailey, he received a phone call from his father not long before to say that something terrible was happening in the house. Obviously, when police finally showed up, they were prepared for anything. What they found, though, was shocked in them, as inside they discovered a mass shooting that would leave an entire family dead. Initially, the belief was that the person responsible for the crime had been Sheila Cathell, the adopted sister of Jeremy. All evidence pointed toward her shooting both her parents and her 2 children, all before then taking her own life following a schizophrenic episode. As time went on, however, people would begin to realize the most likely culprit was actually the only person in the household who was still alive. This is Monsters.
The right heroes could make all the difference.
The Bamber family was very highly regarded in Essex throughout the latter half of the 1900s. Given their social status as local business owners and good Christian folks, that really shouldn't come as much of a surprise. The patriarch of the clan, Mr. Bamber, had served his country in the Royal Air Force for a good part of his life. After that, prior to becoming a farmer who owned 3 separate properties, he worked as a magistrate at the local court for a while. So respect for him was ever-present, as it was for his wife, June, someone who'd grown up in an upper-middle-class family who, unbeknownst to many until years later, had actually been a military woman herself.
They'll be coming in 30 seconds. Stay strong.
Ah, so you have decided to join me in the fight against the surface world after all. I knew you would make the right choice.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It seems Krakoa is in good
I'll
hands.
patch you up.
Powering up.
I'm going green.
All right, Ty. Now we really have to attack. Feels like the spirit of the city.
You're welcome.
Being targeted by a sniper.
A shield? Okay. Someone. Too much damage. You're ready for action.
They faded halfway. Stop them. Better stop that vehicle.
You're welcome. You're ready for action. Get my step. Explore, jerk. This is real firepower.
Against the world.
That's fucking hurt.
There's still a chance to stop them.
Amazing. You're ready for action.
Yo soy el final.
Explore, jerk.
They hit a checkpoint. Now might be a good time to stop them.
You're welcome.
I'll get you next time. Better stop that vehicle.
Here comes Rocket again. This is a nice spot.
Co-op time.
You're ready for action. This is a nice spot. Sniper. Just what you're welcome. Ow, that fucking hurt.
Appreciate the boost.
They made it halfway! Stop them!
I'm going green!
Better stop that vehicle!
You're ready for action! I feel like myself again. Eat s'mores, jerks! I'll patch you up. Armored up! That's me. You're welcome.
Us against the world.
You get a weapon, you get a weapon. I'll patch you up. I'm going green. Someone scratch my back.
He's stuck in their tracks!
It ain't cheap.
Yo soy el final.
This is real firepower! That is much better. I'll patch you up. Team play. That's me. Much better.
Perfect precision.
You're ready for action. Oh, here they are. Jerks. Team play. That's me. You can't hurt me. I'll patch you up.
Appreciate the boost. Seems Krakoa is in good hands, Magneto.
Count on
As he
me.
got older, I would extend to him being engaged in a variety of romantic
Only 60 seconds left!
allegedly with both men and women. A very libertine and scandalous thing to do is not.
Down! That's the blocker!
Stop them in their tracks!
You're welcome.
Protection is always well the focus.
I'll patch you up.
Down to 30 seconds! Chance to stop them! The final 10 seconds!
I'll patch you up.
Going to overtime!
Power! You get a weapon! You get a weapon! You get a weapon! You're ready for action!
The current score is 0-1. Time to switch things up, including which side you're on. You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
While the brunt of that was felt by Sheila growing up, it wasn't like Jeremy didn't suffer as a result of that parenting style. While he was, on the surface, a lot better adjusted than his sister growing up, he still wasn't without his own issues. Those issues saw him act very crude to those around him at times. Some would even go as far as to describe incidents where he hurt animals for fun, and others would simply accuse him of being a spoiled brat.
My
Some would get away with anything he wanted on account of his last name.
armor packed
So
here!
as the years
Pay
went
up!
on and Jeremy got older, he turned into something of a troublemaker. One who could be very vocal about how much he resented his parents for sending
30
him
seconds
to
before you attack. Get ready.
I thought you were a goner after the vampires caught us by the Queensboro Bridge.
Oh, me too.
You'll never guess who showed up to save the day. Morbius.
No way.
It got weirder from there. I'll tell you about it sometime.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Just like
That was a little messed up there. Thanks. Relay deployed. It ain't cheap.
I seem to be unprotected.
That is much better.
A valiant duty
Watch out, but the failed one. You're welcome. I'll patch you up. You're ready for action. This is a nice spot.
That's a dead job.
That is much better. Someone scratch my back. You're welcome. My good deed for the day. I'm going This is real firepower! Ready for action? See, I'm fucking helpful. You're welcome. Relay deployed. It ain't cheap.
It seems Krakoa is in good hands, Magneto.
mutant kind!
I'll patch you up. I'm going green. See,
Yo soy el final!
ready for action.
Co-op time!
Feels like a mate. Team play. That's me. I'll patch you up.
The vehicle reached the checkpoint. Keep up the momentum.
See, I'm sparking helpful. You're welcome.
How refreshing.
I'll patch you up. Relay deployed. It ain't
You're halfway there. Keep going.
You get a weapon. You get a weapon. You get a weapon. It's more, jerks.
All right, Ty. Now we really
Beholds the god of thunder!
Ah, you ain't got rid of me yet. Relay deployed. It ain't cheap. I'll patch you up. This is a nice spot. That fucking hurt. You're welcome.
get that vehicle moving again.
I'll patch you up. This is real firepower!
Co-op time.
You're ready for action! Don't mind me. I'm just dying. I'm going green.
Almost there. Don't turn back now.
You're welcome.
Everybody needs a hand sometimes. Only 60 seconds left.
This has gotten more dangerous. You're ready for action. Relay deployed.
Down to 30 seconds. Get that vehicle moving again.
I'll patch you up. Bring on the chaos. Co-op time. Relay deployed. It ain't cheap.
The final 10 seconds.
Behold the god of thunder!
No winner yet. Going to overtime. Us against the world.
I'll patch you up.
Talia, Shiva!
You're ready for action.
Final score. 2-1.
Back in London, she was also on the brink of a full-blown emotional collapse. So particularly as by that point, social services had gotten involved with the strength of Daniel and Nicholas, making the young mother temporarily lose custody of the twins. But that wasn't Sheila's only worry. She also started growing concerned that her brother, who had by then made amends with his parents again and had returned to working the White House farm with his father, was trying to cut her out of the family inheritance as much as possible so that he could have it all for himself. Of course, as the later events would show, she likely had very good reason to feel that way. And she wasn't alone in having issues with Jeremy throughout the early 80s. No, plenty of people who knew him had taken note of how much he'd changed in Australia and New Zealand, with him becoming even more arrogant and cruel after returning to England. Still, that didn't stop the heir to the Bamber fortune from finding new sexual partners. In 1983, after breaking up with the married woman he'd been seeing, Jeremy began a relationship with a 19-year-old teaching student named Julie Mugford. While he would continue to see other women behind her back, the pair seemed to be very much in love. It wasn't long before they moved in together at Bortron Cottage, a house located only a short distance away from White House Farm. There, Jeremy spent his free time growing cannabis, which he sold on the side. Elsewhere, as that was happening, Sheila finally got some positive news as, after yet another hospital stay, she would officially be diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. While that wasn't exactly a good thing, it did at least mean she was able to get the correct medication in order to hopefully bring her symptoms under control. Though that seemed to be a step in the right direction, things would soon be set back to square one all over again when, after receiving a visit from her ex-husband Colin during the end of 1984, any hopes she still harbored that the two could ever reconcile were killed for good. Unsurprisingly then, that caused Sheila to spiral, with her drug use only getting worse. She even agreed to do a nude photo shoot in order to fund her habit. So when she was hospitalized once more, Colin finally decided that enough was enough and would take the kids from Sheila, keeping them from their mother as much as possible for the sake of their own well-being. Of course, Sheila would still see Daniel and Nicholas once she was released from St. Andrews, the same hospital which had treated her mother, but she would no longer be the primary caregiver for the twins going forward. Even with the correct medication, she had fallen to a point where she wasn't capable of being responsible for 2 young children, which would be evident when she started to believe she was a white witch, someone whose duty to the world was to cleanse it of evil. That was a delusion she continued to hold as she moved back in with her parents at White House Farm in early 1985 so that they could keep a close eye on her. One person who was not so concerned with checking in on Sheila at that point, though, was Jeremy. No, by that point, he and his sister were no longer close, as he seemed far more concerned with ensuring he was never again at risk of being cut out of the family estate. But it makes sense he'd want to ensure that, as he stood to inherit a lot of money. Money which would be split between him and his adopted sister. Of course, if she wasn't around, though, then Jeremy would be able to lay claim to her half, too, making him all that much richer. And it appears that was the impetus for Jeremy's plan. It had all started nicely enough, with the plan for that weekend being that there would be a family reunion of sorts at White House Farm. With Sheila already living there with Neville and June, Colin agreed to let the kids stay there for a couple of days so that they could spend time with their mother and grandparents. Jeremy was also there working at the farm that weekend, so he no doubt popped in here and there. For the most part, though, he probably kept mostly to himself as he continued to spend his free time partying, something that was happening much to the frustration of his girlfriend Julie. That makes it more difficult to get a true picture of what occurred at White House Farm that weekend, as, by the time it was over, Jeremy would be the only member of the family who was still alive. What does seem clear, however, is that there was a general consensus of unease permeating throughout the air prior to the murders. In fact, not long before his grandchildren arrived, Neville made a comment to one of the staff he kept on the grounds that suggested he was worried about dying soon, almost as if he was having a premonition. Also, Daniel and Nicholas would be strangely resistant to going and staying with their grandparents that particular time. Of course, that was chalked up to them not being fans of June's strictness, particularly when it came to making sure the kids always said their prayers before bed. But there was also a sense that something else was worrying them about the visit. Maybe they could feel it in the ether. The fact that, when they went to bed on the evening of August 6th, they would not be waking up again the following morning. That was because, at some point over the course of the evening, according to Jeremy, he was present for an argument that took place between Sheila and their parents. The subject of the argument was allegedly that Sheila wanted custody of her kids back, but Neville and June didn't think their daughter was fit enough to look after them alone. The way he recalled it, they were concerned that if she was able to regain access to Daniel and Nicholas full time, she'd do such a bad job she'd end up losing them again for good. They believed that that would in turn stop them from being able to see their grandchildren. They suggested that they work towards taking the 2 6-year-olds in themselves at White House Farm along with Sheila on a permanent basis. That would mean that she could be supervised at all times while she raised her children. Evidently, Sheila didn't take too kindly to having her parenting skills questioned, especially by the people who she felt had done such a poor job raising her. As that was going on, Jeremy claimed he decided to get away from the fight by taking his father's rifle and going rabbit hunting. But for one reason or another, he never actually ended up shooting any of the rabbits during the short time he was away. So when he returned to White House Farm at around 9:30 p.m., he was empty-handed. All except for the rifle, which he proceeded to set down in the kitchen before saying goodnight and heading home to Birchtree Cottage. Ophthalmology. Defibrillator. Jeremy claimed that that was the last he saw of his family while they were alive. The only contact he had with any of them again was when, at around 4 a.m. the following morning, he got a call from his father telling him there was trouble at the house. According to what Jeremy later told police, Neville had claimed to him that Sheila had a gun and was going berserk with it. At some point during that conversation, though, the call got cut off, and when Jeremy tried to call back, he couldn't get through. So instead he dialed the number for the local Chelmsford police station, and not, as would have been the seemingly obvious thing to do, 999, the emergency services number in the UK. Now, why Jeremy did that has been a question many have tried to answer in the years since, with no one coming up with a truly suitable answer. Was it him panicking in the moment and not thinking straight, or was it him trying to delay the police showing up to the scene by calling a local office instead of an emergency line? As far as he's argued in the years since, he just didn't think it would make a difference what number he dialed. One thing that he did struggle to explain after the fact, though, was why phone records later showed that before he called the police, he called his girlfriend first. That would become a key part in the case against him later on down the line, as investigators felt there was more to the story. At that moment, however, it was not their major concern. Initially, upon arriving at the scene, their first priority was to find out what had happened inside White House Farm. But with there allegedly being a crazy woman running around inside with a rifle, it wasn't like they wanted to just burst in through the front door, as that could make the situation a whole lot more deadly. So instead, the officers tried calling the house themselves. When that didn't work, they attempted to use a bullhorn in order to speak to anyone inside. Much to their chagrin, when they did, no one responded. At that point, it became clear something bad had likely happened and that they were going to have to make entry into the house. They finally broke into the house at around 7:30 a.m. and discovered the grim aftermath of what had taken place the night before. They first found Neville sitting in the kitchen, hunched over in a freakish and almost impossible position. He was bleeding from the head, with the blood having dripped down and smeared all over the nearby cooktop. Clearly he was dead, and it looked very much like he had died in some sort of violent struggle. But that wasn't the only death that had occurred at White House Farm, as, upon further inspection of the property, officers would find the body of June in the upstairs hallway, laying against the door of the master bedroom with a bullet hole in her head. With gun crime in the UK being relatively low, it's not something any of the officers on the scene would have likely witnessed before. That meant that, when they heard a noise coming from the bedroom, they likely feared they were about to get into a shootout themselves. Thankfully, the noise they heard had come from June's dog, who had hidden under the bed, presumably in fear. The dog was unharmed physically. That said, it didn't mean the horrors of the scene were over, because once the officers entered the bedroom to see if the dog was okay, they found Sheila lying there, dead with 2 bullet holes under her jaw and her mother's Bible next to her. Curiously, though, while the ground around her was covered in blood, her hands and the soles of her feet were completely clean. After that, Daniel and Nicholas were also found dead in their beds, likely having been murdered while they slept. Obviously, a murder had taken place, and the way officers saw it initially, it had most likely been a murder. The scene suggested Sheila had shot everyone in a state of insanity, all before then taking her own life. But that was just a working theory, and a full investigation was going to have to be done in order to ascertain all the details. Before that could happen, though, Jeremy, who was still waiting outside, had to be informed of the fate of his family. He had seemed oddly calm earlier, but when he was told that his family were dead, he finally showed some emotion as the reality of the situation presumably started to sink in for him. He insisted that he needed to see his father in order to confirm what the authorities were telling him was true. Once he made confirmation of his father's identity, all he could talk about was how his sister should have never been let out of the hospital and all of the deaths could have been avoided. It seemed as though Jeremy was also working under the theory that Sheila had been the killer. And that was a theory he continued to push as the authorities followed him back to his house for further questioning. Then, when news began to get out to the press and everyone in the local area became aware of the situation, it was that story that spread around and quickly gained the most traction. Sure, there were some problems pointed out with that story, even early on. The most substantial was the fact that there were 2 bullet wounds under Sheila's jaw, suggesting someone else caused at least one of them. Some tried to suggest that the gun fired again as it fell to the ground, and it just so happened to hit her in that spot. Not only was the chance that the gun would just coincidentally hit the same spot as the fatal shot, it's very unlikely that a firearm will go off on its own when it's dropped or bumped. Then, as the extended family of the Bambers arrived to comfort Jeremy, even more unlikelihoods and inconsistencies about the scene were discovered. Neville had suffered a broken jaw during the struggle that led to his death, and if his death happened at the time investigators believed it had, it would mean that by the time he allegedly called his son to tell him something was happening, he shouldn't have been able to talk on the phone. And then there was the fact that there appeared to be bloody fingerprints belonging to Sheila on her own clothes, suggesting that there had been blood on her hands, but that it had been cleaned away at some point. Would she have shot her parents and children, washed her hands, and then killed herself? Things didn't add up. After all, would she have really been able to overpower her much larger and stronger father in a struggle for their lives? Those were questions extended family members had as the days progressed. That caused them to eventually start wondering if Jeremy hadn't been involved in some way. He just seemed too calm about the murders. Sure, everyone grieves in their own way, but there was something about the way he was responding to the death of his parents, sister, and nephews that didn't ring true to his cousins. As time went on and the police started to question him more, there was something about the way he was responding that didn't ring true to them either. When days later he still couldn't provide a suitable explanation for why he called his girlfriend before calling the police, the investigators began to have their suspicions about him too. After all, he did stand to inherit his parents' entire fortune, and he was experienced with guns in a way that his sister wasn't. Still though, for as much as some on the police force might have had their doubts, in the end the consensus with the investigation team appeared to be that it had indeed been a murder at the hands of Sheila. Even though Jeremy's cousins continued to push for him to be investigated further, investigators didn't have enough to charge him. Even when another investigation of the farm, which happened in secret by the family, unearthed a silencer covered in blood, that did nothing to change the course of the case. Despite it seeming likely that the silencer had been on the murder weapon when it was fired and then mysteriously removed and stored away after the fact, suggesting Sheila couldn't have been the killer, the authorities stood their ground. Of course, the belief by many at the time was that they just wanted to close the case and put the whole thing in the past, particularly as there were already questions being asked about the sloppiness of their initial investigation. So they didn't care to look any deeper. They just wanted to pin it on a mentally ill woman, as that was the easiest solution. And that's exactly what happened as, once the inquest was over, Sheila Caffell was found to be guilty of the murders of Neville Bamber, June Bamber, and Daniel and Nicholas Caffell. But that simply wasn't good enough for the family. They continued to investigate the situation themselves.
Check the rally's $4 unbeatable meal feels better. All that for $4? Yep. Choose the new loaded tender wrap, classic burger or spicy chicken. Your choice with fries, drink, and chicken bites. Just $4. This eats different.
After losing his ex-wife and both of his children in the tragedy, Colin Caffell had become inconsolable, a broken man. But while his grief was fully embraced by those around him, Jeremy's was not. When he cried at the funeral of his family, it seemed to many onlookers like there was nothing genuine about it. And that rang true for the way people felt about Julie as well. Someone who was allegedly joking with her boyfriend around that time about how much money they stood to inherit. So feeling the need to broach the subject, Julie's friend Susan Battersby questioned her about it not long after, wanted to know exactly what she knew. It was during the course of that conversation that, presumably overwhelmed with guilt regarding her complicitness, Julie admitted that Jeremy had in fact been the one responsible for the murders. Not that he'd done it himself, though. No, he'd hired a hitman by the name of Matthew McDonald to carry out the job and make it look like it had been the work of Sheila. The way she explained it, the reason her boyfriend had gone out with the rifle that evening was not to hunt any rabbits, but rather to give himself a reason to return to the house later and leave the gun in a spot where it could later be found by Matthew once he'd broken in. Of course, once she told all that to her friend, Julie would swear her to secrecy. And despite finding out that Jeremy was a murderer and was walking free, Susan agreed to say nothing to the police. But Julie's guilt obviously wasn't assuaged by that confession, as in the weeks that followed, she continued to drop hints to her friends that Jeremy had been the one responsible for the murders at White House Farm, all without actually coming out and saying it, of course. That led to tension developing between the couple as he grew more and more concerned about her ability to keep quiet. That tension would only get worse when she found evidence that he was having an affair with a woman named Virginia. It's probably not a great idea to be open with your girlfriend about murder and then turn around and cheat on her. But what do I know? I've never cheated on anyone. I mean, I haven't murdered anyone either. At one point, they had a full-blown physical fight, and that led to Julie finally leaving Jeremy, though not before receiving a very healthy check. That was presumably in exchange for her silence. But if that was indeed what the payoff was for, it didn't work, because soon after she went to the police and confessed everything she knew about the killings. That included the fact that Jeremy had first broached the idea of offing his parents in order to get access to their money a full 18 months before he went ahead with his plan. As Julie explained it, Jeremy had decided the risk of him being cut out of his inheritance was too high, and that he needed to ensure that he had it all in his possession as soon as possible. Of course, that also meant killing his sister, as she would have had an equal claim to it if she was alive. So he waited for a time when he knew everyone was going to be together. Sure, his nephews Daniel and Nicholas would also have to be killed in the process. But the way Jeremy justified it, that would relieve their father of the burden of having to raise them as a single father any longer. Wow, what a hero. The only question was how exactly would he go about murdering them? At one point, he considered shooting them himself and then setting fire to the house in order to destroy evidence. It seems he decided that would lead to many of the valuables inside of the house being destroyed, something he didn't want to happen. He decided that putting himself as the killer was a risk that wasn't necessary, not when he could hire someone else to do the job for him. So that's when he came up with the plan to employ a hitman to carry out the murders on his behalf. Or so he claimed. As time went on, Jeremy had acted more and more strangely, making weird comments here and there that didn't align with his original story. That caused Julie to suspect that he had actually been the man with his finger on the trigger after all. The first clue had been the call he'd made to her on the night of the killings, before he called the police. During that call, he told Julie that it was tonight or never and that he was on the scene where everything had gone well. She had brushed that off at the time, but eventually she was forced to reckon with what that implied about where Jeremy had been at the time of the murders. She claimed that the only reason she hadn't told all of that to the police before was because her boyfriend had convinced her that she'd be an accessory if she said anything. But even if that was true, she couldn't remain quiet any longer. She had to spill all of the beans, if for no other reason than so she could sleep peacefully at night. Unsurprisingly then, investigators went straight to Jeremy's home at Bertree Cottage. But with him denying everything at that point, and with there being no concrete evidence against him other than the word of his ex-girlfriend, authorities were unable to charge him with murder. First, they had to build a more solid case, and that began with them visiting Matthew McDonald, who admitted he had been approached by Jeremy one night at a wine bar, but had no involvement in the murders at White House Farm. He even had an airtight alibi for the time of the murders. What it looked like may have happened was that Jeremy had wanted a hitman to do the job for him, but when he couldn't get one, he decided to take matters into his own hands. Then, additional forensic evidence suggested the trajectory of the bullet that killed Sheila proved she could not have been the one who fired the shot. On top of that, investigators finally looked into the mysterious silencer, which gave them all they needed to formally charge Jeremy with murder on September 8, 1985. Despite being an accessory after the fact at the very least, Julie Mugford was not charged. It was the opinion of the authorities that she'd been made to keep her boyfriend's secret under duress, and because of that, some leniency was afforded to her. That meant she could watch from the sidelines as, for the next year, Jeremy assembled his defense team in preparation for his upcoming trial. The trial began in October of 1986. Ultimately, despite all his team's preparation, it would end up being rather short. After the prosecution was able to argue their case that Sheila could not realistically have been the one to commit the murders given the multiple shots to her head and the fact that the oh-so-important silencer had been stored away after her death, it left only one suspect remaining. And with Julie's testimony, the jury easily found him guilty on 5 counts of murder. Jeremy Bamber was given 5 consecutive life sentences, with him being required to serve a minimum of 25 years before parole was considered. But that, as it happens, would not be the end of the story. While Jeremy remains behind bars to this day, there has been something of a movement pushing for his release, with a not insignificant number of people in 2025 believing he's innocent. That has to do with the sloppiness of the initial investigation. After all, when the authorities themselves admit that it was poorly done, how can their findings be trusted? But just because an investigation is sloppy doesn't mean they can't eventually convict the right person. There are also people who claim that there was an issue with the silencer evidence, which was crucial for the conviction. Sheila's blood was found inside the silencer, but that only meant that she had to shoot herself at least once with it on. Could she have shot herself, removed the silencer, put it downstairs, then gone back upstairs and shot herself again with the silencer off? It's very unlikely. Then, other people claim that the silencer, which was found later by family members, was planted because they wanted to get their hands on the Bambers' money. The Bambers' extended family members were also wealthy, so they had no reason to set their own cousin up as a murderer to get that money. Some cite a later land dispute as evidence they lied and that they really did want the money, but it seems like a very desperate attempt to find any proof Jeremy is innocent. This is not uncommon with people who get convicted and gain a small following of loyal fans who are convinced that some injustice was done. It turns into a conspiracy theory where every little bit of information becomes evidence of innocence, despite the sheer amount of coincidences that would have had to happen in order to make that person not guilty, and where a bunch of people had to have worked together to get the convicted locked away. People who were unrelated and didn't benefit from the conspiracy. Say Jeremy's cousins wanted his parents' money. What was in it for Matthew McDonald? What was in it for Julie? She ultimately made herself an accessory by telling the police that Jeremy had done it and lost her access to the money Jeremy would have inherited. It doesn't make sense. The convicted uses all of those tiny details to try and gain their freedom, but it almost never works. So far, about a dozen people have told me that either they or someone else who's been convicted is going to prove their innocence and be released. To date, the amount of people who have is 0. As far as the courts have been concerned, none of that supposed evidence of innocence has been enough to negate the guilty verdict for Jeremy Bamber. The overwhelming evidence still suggests he was the one who did it and not his sister. That means he'll likely sit in a cell for the rest of his days, alienated from his remaining family and with none of the money he so desperately wanted. All he has now is the legacy of being one of the UK's most notorious killers. Someone who was so desperate to have it all, so hungry for riches to fund his lifestyle, that he was willing to become a monster. Thanks so much for letting me tell you this story. If you're a fan of true crime, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave a comment. If you'd like to support the show, check out our merchandise at thisismonsters.com. The link is in the description. Thanks again, and be safe.
Shop your new mattress your way at Mission. Browse our wide selection online from the comfort of your home. Or come in and see what feels good at one of our conveniently located stores. Shop Ashley in-store or online today.
Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I'm your host and narrator, Giles with a J, and we're on Season 21, Family Annihilators Part 2. You can check out Season 4, Family Annihilators. There's a link to the playlist in the description. If you enjoy true crime, subscribe and hit the notification button so you never miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave me a comment. Now, on with the show. In 2001, authorities arrived at the home of the Bluestone family to find multiple people dead and even more injured. Everyone was shocked to learn that Carl Bluestone had killed his wife and 2 of his 4 children before killing, as they believed that the Bluestones were a picture-perfect family. They quickly learned that not only had the family been experiencing domestic violence, but that the authorities knew about it and had done nothing to stop it. This is Monsters. Carl Bluestone was born in 1965 in Kent, England. It's been reported that he was friendly in his youth and regularly volunteered in the community. He joined the Kent Police Force in 1987 and had married a woman who isn't identified in any source. He had a daughter named Samantha with that woman before they divorced for unknown reasons. There was no mention of domestic abuse in that marriage, but there definitely was in his second marriage. He had gone on to marry Jill, and very quickly that marriage turned violent. It seems that Jill was already pregnant with their first child when the couple got married in or around 1994. She was a successful member of the Essex County Council and had been promoted during the time they were married. She had a higher annual salary than her husband, and some speculate that there was some jealousy in him regarding that fact. Carl had been a police constable for 7 years by the time they married, and he was well liked by his peers and had no negative marks on his record. He worked on a tactical team that would carry out more high-risk tasks amongst the police force. It was only weeks after they got married that Carl attacked Jill, who was 5 months pregnant at the time. Carl had kicked his wife in the stomach and was arrested, but not charged because Jill declined to press charges. He was arrested again in 1999, that time for attacking Jill with a meat cleaver and attempting to sexually assault her. Again, Jill declined to press charges. Only a few weeks later, there was another altercation, and Jill got into her vehicle in an attempt to get away, but Carl smashed the windshield. Then he went back into the house and started throwing things around, like a toddler having a tantrum. Unfortunately, one of his children was in the path of something he threw and received a minor injury. He was arrested, but while being driven to the police station, he was able to take a bunch of pills and was rushed to the hospital. It's unclear why someone who was under arrest and in a police car had access to a bunch of pills, but here we are. He took 14 weeks of sick leave after that, and social services investigated, but determined there was insufficient evidence to take the case further. They determined that he could return to work at the end of those 14 weeks. Now, it's very unlikely that those were the only instances of domestic abuse happening in the Bluestone household. They were just the ones that police responded to. Carl was said to have been controlling, and some of his co-workers said that it was no secret that he slept with other women. Most people, though, said Carl was a nice guy and a good police constable. Their neighbors said the family seemed very happy, and their nanny would say, quote, "They seem to be the perfect family, with 2 highly successful parents and 4 lovely children." But that's a common view of a dysfunctional family to the outside world. Most abusers are very good at playing the nice guy to people around them, and the abused tend to hide the situation out of fear. So many times, a relationship that's abusive behind closed doors very much looks like the picture-perfect family to the outside world. It may be why people like myself, and probably many of you who are watching or listening, tend to become suspicious of a relationship that seems too perfect. Fortunately, despite our suspicious natures, there are families that are perfectly healthy and happy. It's not a terrible thing to stay vigilant, though. In the years leading up to the murders, Carl became increasingly unhappy that Jill was making more money than he was. She had been advancing in her career while he had not had a promotion in quite a while. It's not uncommon for controlling men to feel emasculated by their wives making more money than them. They see their employment as a sign of who has more control of the family, and of course, to them, they were the only one who should have control. He also became paranoid that Jill was having an affair with a coworker. It's very common for a person who cheats on their partner to believe that their partner is also cheating on them. It's a psychological behavior where someone attributes their own negative actions onto someone else. It's generally done to minimize their own transgressions by believing their partner is also being unfaithful. It can also be a way for the cheater to take the focus off of themselves, as their partner has to focus on defending their own actions. There's actually a psychological disorder called Othello syndrome, which causes the sufferer to have obsessive, intrusive thoughts that their partner is being unfaithful. Now, it's unlikely that Carl was suffering from Othello syndrome, as that usually doesn't mean the sufferer is cheating themselves. They have just become convinced their partner is cheating for no verifiable reason. It sounds much more likely that Carl was projecting due to his own unfaithfulness. Jill told a friend that she believed that Carl had been recording their conversations, and she felt increasingly unsafe. Jill had at one point told her sister-in-law that it was safer to string Carl along than to leave him, but she eventually had enough. His infidelity had gotten to the point that he had spent the previous Christmas holiday with a girlfriend instead of his family. In June of 2001, Jill told Carl that she intended to leave him and take the kids. He responded by strangling her to the point of unconsciousness. At some point during the attack, he told her, quote, "There is no divorce. The only way out is death." On August 28, 2001, Carl went to work as usual, and after his shift, he went to the local pub with some colleagues. After a few pints, he went home, and as far as anyone else knew, was finishing out his day like any other. But this wasn't any other day, because Carl seems to have already decided it was going to be the last day of his and his family's lives. Earlier that day, Carl had stopped into a local building supplier and purchased a length of rope. The shop assistant asked him what the rope was for, and Carl explained that he was going to lift some furniture. When the assistant asked him the weight of the furniture, Carl responded, quote, "My weight." With that purchase and what the rope ended up being used for, it was clear that Carl had planned out the attack. It was learned that Carl had sat down on the couch and watched his favorite television show before starting an argument with Jill. It's been reported that Carl said, quote, "I heard about you today." But it's unknown what that meant. Possibly something to do with the recordings he was allegedly making. That was when he began attacking her with a hammer, and at the same time he grabbed their 6-year-old daughter Jessica and slammed her head into the floor. She managed to escape and run out of the house. She would later say that her mother had told her to run and get the police, so we know Jill was still alive at that point. The family lived in a semi-detached house, and Jessica went to their neighbor and banged on the door. The resident, Ernest Lane, opened the door to see a terrified young girl who said, quote, "My daddy is hitting my mommy. Please call the police." After Ernest made the call, Jessica went on to say, quote, "Daddy banged my head on the wooden floor. I cannot get mommy out of my mind. She had blood coming out of her head. I don't want daddy to kill mommy." Investigators estimate that Jill had received about 10 blows to the head with the hammer by then. When Jessica escaped, he went on to attack their 3 other children. He struck them all repeatedly in the head with the hammer, with 3-year-old Henry receiving the worst of it, 10 blows to the little boy's head. Then Carl returned to Jill, hit her about 3 more times with the hammer, and then struck her in the neck with the claw end of the tool. Police arrived at the scene expecting another case of domestic violence, but were met with a horrific scene. They found Jill lying dead on the floor in a pool of her own blood. Then they found 3-year-old Henry at the foot of the stairs, in his pajamas. He had been bludgeoned 10 times and was already dead. Upstairs, 7-year-old Jack was still in the bottom bunk of his bed, curled up in the fetal position. He was severely injured, as was 18-month-old Chandler, who was found in his crib in a different room. The one person the constables couldn't find, though, was Carl. The neighbor, Ernest, had taken a look at the house after he had phoned the police, and he heard some movement in the garage. He passed that information along to the constables on the scene, and it was there that they found the body of Carl. He had used the rope he had purchased earlier to hang him. Jessica, Jack, and Chandler were all rushed to the hospital, where Jessica and Jack recovered from their wounds. Sadly, Chandler died at the hospital. Psychologists have said that the murder weapon used showed that he had an exceptional amount of rage towards his family. Studies have shown that the most common method of murder with family annihilators was stabbing, followed by carbon monoxide poisoning. Other common methods are suffocation or arson. A lot of those are ways that someone can kill while staying fairly detached. Stabbing is more personal, but can still be carried out much more quickly. To beat someone to death with a hammer needs so much personal rage toward the victim. On top of that, family annihilators who are the husband and father commonly commit murders because the marriage is in danger of ending, and they have the mentality that they don't want anyone else to have their wife or family. It's a form of possession, and when they decide to end their life, which happens in over 80% of male family annihilator cases, they believe they need to take their family with them. Of course, in that case, Carl could have found a quick and less painful way to kill his family, but he chose to beat them repeatedly with a hammer. It seemed as though Carl blamed his wife and children for the breakdown in his life and took his rage out on them. With the perpetrator dead, a Gravesend County court held an inquest to determine what could have been done to prevent the tragedy. It was identified that 4 incidents of domestic violence perpetrated by Carl Bluestone were brought to the attention of the Kent County Constabulary, and all were reported. In 2 of those incidents, reference was made to the Crown Prosecution Service, who decided to take no further action. No disciplinary action was undertaken in relation to any of the incidents. It's easy to say in hindsight that the authorities should have acted in some way to prevent the murders, but it's not guaranteed that they could have been prevented. I agree that Carl should have suffered consequences for his actions, but that might have only sped up the ultimate tragedy that ended up happening. It's possible that they could have been able to give Carl some type of mental health treatment, but if Carl wasn't open to that, he wouldn't have changed. His anger could have risen more quickly, escalating the domestic violence to murder sooner than it happened. Again, I do believe that Carl's domestic violence arrest should have been taken more seriously, but it's impossible to say how things would have changed if they had been. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we can never know exactly why Carl Bluestone did what he did, and we can never know for sure what would have been different if authorities had taken different action. The Kent Police Department released a statement saying, quote, "An interagency review into the events leading up to the murders was commissioned, and concluded amongst other findings that there were missed opportunities for early intervention to break the cycle of violence." It seems that the Association of Chief Police Officers have implemented suggestions in order to minimize the risk of further tragedies and highlight the lessons to be learned from this particular case. We cannot predict the future, but we can take reports of domestic abuse more seriously to help reduce the amount of abusers who go full monster and resort to murder. Thanks so much for letting me tell you this story. If you're a fan of true crime, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave a comment. If you'd like to support the show, check out our merchandise at thisismonsters.com. The link is in the description. Thanks again, and be safe.
Two moms, one dad, and a ragtag group of 9 kids. I know what you're thinking. I know we're not a cult, but we're definitely different.
No man left behind. Oh, there's the alarm. Watch out, world. Here we come. Let's roll. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I'm your host and narrator, Giles with a J, and we're on Season 21, Family Annihilators Part 2. You can check out Season 4, Family Annihilators. There's a link to the playlist in the description. If you enjoy true crime, subscribe and hit the notification button so you never miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave me a comment. Now, on with the show. At 9:30 p.m. on Easter Sunday in 1975, police in Hamilton, Ohio responded to reports that a person had been shot. When officers looked inside the house, they noticed uneaten meals and half-finished cups of coffee sitting on the table alongside brightly wrapped Easter eggs. The only thing that was out of place were the 11 bodies lying on the floor covered in blood. This is Monsters. James Urban Rupert was born on March 29, 1934 in Hamilton, Ohio, the younger of 2 children. Hamilton is a quiet Midwestern town nestled alongside the Great Miami River, 20 miles or 32 kilometers north of Cincinnati. The town was once a thriving industrial area which was renowned for its steel, paper, and manufacturing plants. It gained the nickname the City of Sculpture for its appreciation of the arts and public monuments crafted from locally refined metals. To this day, it's known for its 19th century architecture and historic neighborhoods. But back when James arrived in the early 1930s, the soul of Hamilton had been decimated by the Great Depression. Many of the once booming factories had slowed down or shut completely, and many of the city's families were plunged into poverty. James's parents, Leonard and Charity Rupert, were barely making ends meet with one child, and when their youngest came along, things only got worse. Leonard lost his job and turned to alcohol to numb his feelings. He was already a strict disciplinarian, and the alcohol only made him meaner. Charity was the main caregiver for the children, but she was emotionally cold and distant, particularly when it came to her youngest son. She often targeted James with belittling comments like calling him useless, a failure, and stupid. His father was no kinder, often telling James that he would never have a job or live independently. James was a small, sickly, and awkward child. He suffered from bronchial asthma, which started at age 2, which meant he had a lot of trouble breathing. His symptoms were especially bad when it was cold or damp, which happened often in Hamilton's temperamental Midwestern climate. Winters were long and wet, and spring came with heavy humidity. While other kids ran and played outside, James was often kept indoors. To make matters worse, Leonard began raising chickens in the backyard of their family home. The dust and feathers triggered James's asthma, and yet his father regularly made him clean out the coop. James would often wheeze through the night and wake up barely rested. His condition also meant he was unable to participate in sports or gym class. Combine that with the frequent doctor's visits and various treatments, James missed out on plenty of school days, all of which made him feel exactly like the weak and worthless child that his parents reminded him he was. Even though James was intelligent with an IQ just over average and a gift for mechanics, he was awkward around other kids his age. No matter how hard he tried, he didn't seem to be able to make friends. The illness and constant coughing meant James walked with a hunch and he never fully matured physically. That made him an easy target for schoolyard bullies, while kids in the neighborhood called him a sissy. No matter how hard James tried or what he achieved, nothing he did ever seemed to measure up to his big brother Leonard Jr. Jr. was everything James wasn't. He was tall, athletic, social, and a natural leader. Teachers raved about him, and girls threw themselves at him. But most painful of all, their mother didn't try to hide that he was her favorite. She would often ask James, quote, "Why can't you be more like Leonard?" Beyond Leonard Sr. and Charity's cold and distant parenting, they were also strict Roman Catholics, as were many of the residents in Hamilton. Charity attended Mass every day, and the boys were expected to follow suit. There were rules and rituals to their daily lives which left no space for negotiation or emotion. Things were bad for James, but they got much worse after his father died from tuberculosis when James was 12 years old. Without a husband, Charity told Leonard Jr. that he was the man of the house. She doubled down on her expectations of complete obedience and success, but she wasn't going to get that from James. Not because he wasn't capable or didn't behave, but because nothing was ever good enough. When she made him clean, he would miss the tiniest spot and then be shamed and chastised for being lazy and naughty. When he got a B at school, he was punished for being stupid. James and Leonard Jr. attended Hamilton Catholic High School, which meant there was no relief from the strictness of religious teaching. It followed them from the home to the classroom and back again. There were only 200 students at the school, and everyone seemed to know everyone, which meant everyone knew that James was a weirdo. He was the kid who sat alone at lunch, and who didn't have any friends. That reputation made Leonard Jr. keen to keep his distance at school. He didn't bully James, but he didn't stick up for him or try to make his life easier. Anyone who made fun of Jr. for his brother's awkwardness was reminded that they were nothing alike. Friends would later say that Leonard acted as a surrogate father after Sr. died, but James didn't see it that way. James would later say that after his father died, Charity became physically abusive towards him. She also encouraged Leonard to take part in the beatings in order to teach him a lesson. On one occasion, they dragged him to the basement and beat him with a rubber hose after he threw a dinner plate on the floor. Things got so bad that James attempted to run away from the home several times. Each time he would return home more depressed than when he left. Things got so bad that he attempted to end his life. When that didn't work, he felt even more stupid for not being able to accomplish that. When James was 18 years old, he was hospitalized for spinal meningitis, which is a serious and potentially life-threatening infection of the membranes surrounding the brain and spinal cord. He spent weeks in the hospital while life carried on as usual for everyone else. When he recovered, he was even weaker and more miserable than before. He would later say that during that time he spent a lot of time contemplating ending his own life. His mother complained that he was a burden and she wished he had never been born. She never spoke like that to Leonard. It was clear that Leonard Jr. could do no wrong, while James could only do wrong. When Leonard finished high school, he joined the military and got a degree. Charity reminded James that those were achievements he would never have. When James finished school in 1952, he enrolled to study electrical engineering at Xavier University and later the University of Cincinnati. He was an average student with mostly B and C grades, but Charity's self-fulfilling prophecy came true and he dropped out after 2 years. He managed to get a good job at General Electric, which gave him enough money to move out on his own, but it didn't last. After leaving GE, he got a temporary position as a draftsman, which meant he had to travel frequently around the Midwest. When James wasn't on the road, he would visit the local library every day. He particularly enjoyed reading the financial section of the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and Washington Post. Another part of his daily routine was to walk from the library to the bank to check on his investments and stocks. Then he would wander over to his favorite local bar called the 19th Hole. By the time James was 30, he was living in the spare bedroom of his mother's house. His traveling draftsman work had dried up, and with no job and no money, he was forced to move back home. After that, he floated between dead-end jobs and took to drinking heavily just like his father before him. He still went to the library every day and still kept track of the stock market, but after making a string of bad investments, he eventually lost it all. But James had another solitary hobby to keep him busy: target shooting. He had a growing collection of firearms that he would take down to the river to practice. His favorite trick was to walk tin cans along the ground with his pistols. That required precise aim and control in order to hit just below the can to make it jump forward with each shot. Like drinking and investing in stocks, shooting required money which James didn't have. Whenever he ran out of cash, his mother or brother would give him a loan, but he quickly drank the money away at the bar and had to beg them for more. With each new loan, he became more resentful. He blamed his mother, his father, and his circumstances for the position he was in. But most of all, he blamed Leonard Jr. Not only was James's older brother everything he was not, Leonard had also stolen James's one shot at happiness. At least that's how he saw it. Back when James was in his early 20s, he met a woman named Alma. She was warm, outgoing, and kind, which made her the polar opposite of the only other woman in his life, Charity. Alma and James spent a lot of time together, often as a trio, with Leonard joining them on activities. James loved Alma and he knew she was the one, but Alma wasn't too sure and didn't make any promises. Just when things were beginning to get serious, Alma told James that Leonard had given her an ultimatum. She needed to choose one of the brothers to be her boyfriend. You probably see where this is going, so you won't be surprised that she chose Leonard. Having Alma leave him for someone else was bad enough, but having that other person be his brother left James utterly broken. Of course, she would choose the tall, charming, and successful Leonard over him. Alma had tried to let James down gently by downplaying the seriousness of their relationship and saying they had just been friends. But that betrayal was the ultimate humiliation. Within months, Alma and Leonard announced they were getting married. Leonard asked James to be his best man. The couple played the part of a happy family and moved on with their lives, but James never would. Over the coming years, James's resentment towards Leonard deepened. With every birthday, Christmas, and Thanksgiving dinner he sat across the table from Leonard and Alma, he felt robbed of the life he could have had and should have had. Alma was meant to be his. Even though Alma had chosen Leonard, he saw her as stolen property. His brother could have had anyone else, but instead he chose to steal the one person which meant so much to James. The younger brother had spent his whole life trailing behind Leonard, in school, in his mother's eyes, and in every milestone. And now the one good thing he thought he had for himself had been taken too. Alma became the symbol of all his failures, the woman he couldn't keep and the life he never got to live. As the years passed, James became a constant bystander to the joys and celebrations of Alma and Leonard's lives together. Every time they announced they were expecting another child, it was like a knife straight to his heart. Once was bad, twice was worse, but then came a third and a fourth, and on until the couple were announcing their 8th child. The more kids they had, the more perfect their little world appeared, and the more James resented them for it. James never confronted his brother or sister-in-law outright, but deep down, the wound of their betrayal festered, and the longer it went untreated, the deeper it spread until it consumed every waking moment of James's life. Soon there would be a reckoning. On Easter Sunday in 1975, Charity celebrated Mass at her local parish, just like she did every year. When she returned home, she prepared a simple meal in preparation for Leonard, Alma, and the children to join her for dinner. At around 4 p.m., they gathered at her home on Minor Avenue on the southeast side of Hamilton. Charity had organized an Easter egg hunt for the kids, which was something she had never done for her own children. When the fun was over, the family shared their meal and listened as the parish bells rang out across the township, signifying the end of the holiday mass. James didn't join the family for the meal. One day earlier, he had turned 41, which he celebrated by drinking at his favorite bar into the early hours. He was barely awake when his family arrived for their annual Easter family dinner, and in no mood to sit by and smile politely while they went on and on about how perfect they all were. As the family took the last bites of their meal, James walked into the dining room. In his hands were 3 loaded handguns and a rifle. At 9:30 p.m., 2 local patrol officers received word that a person had been shot at 635 Minor Avenue. When they arrived at Charity's home, they met James at the front door. He was clean-cut and dressed in a tidy shirt and pants. He calmly told the officers that someone had been shot inside. The officer asked a couple of questions about what had happened, and when he mentioned going inside to see if someone needed help, James shook his head and said, quote, "No, nobody's alive." The officer pushed past James into the small living room directly beyond the front door. Other than the normal furniture and Easter decorations, all they could see was red. Red up the walls, on the ceiling, and all over the kitchen. After taking a breath, the officer connected the red to the bodies. They were everywhere. Some were on the floor and some slouched over the living room furniture or next to the dining table. One was right near the rear door of the home, and then the officer noticed on the table was several guns. The next thing the officer registered was that most of the bodies belonged to children. He counted once, then again, and then again for good measure. 8 children, 3 adults. When the officer backed out of the house to the front door where James was standing, he asked him if they needed to look for another perpetrator. James shook his head and said no. Before being taken from the scene, James asked if he could go back inside to get his coat. The officers declined. Throughout the interaction outside Charity's home, James remained calm and polite, like 11 members of his own family weren't dead just inside the front door. The 8 children were between the ages of 4 and 17. Next to them were the bodies of his mother, his brother, and his sister-in-law. At the police station, James was read his Miranda rights and asked if he wanted a lawyer. If you want to learn more about Miranda rights, you can check out the video I recently made about the history of the Miranda warning. A link is in the description. James declined the offer of a lawyer. Within half an hour, the prosecutor arrived and asked the same question again. James said he was happy to talk so long as it wasn't about the circumstances surrounding the shooting, as if they might be there to chat with him about something else. Instead, James was asked about his own movements that day. He told the officers that he'd gone out drinking the night before and slept until 3 p.m. He heard his brother and his family arrive at Charity's home around 4 p.m. He explained that he hadn't left the house at all that day until the officers brought him to the police station. When he was asked about the guns on the table, James affirmed they belonged to him. He was asked about alcohol and said his last drink had been in the early hours of the morning. He denied using any drugs or prescription medication that day. After chatting a bit more, the officers asked James to give them the names of the shooting victims in his mother's house. There was Charity, Leonard Jr., Alma, Leonard III, Carol, Michael, Tom, and Dave. That made 8, but James couldn't give them the names of the other 3 children. He tried for a while to bring their names to mind, but didn't seem to be able to. That seemed to upset him as the minutes passed, and he became more agitated and began to shut down. Eventually, James told the officers that he wanted to speak to a lawyer. He was handed a phone book and called a lawyer who he recognized as a student he went to school with, but the man didn't deal with criminal cases. After being recommended another lawyer, he made a call and stated that he was a suspect in a homicide. Note the word suspect and a homicide, not 11. Finally, he made contact with someone who agreed to represent him. While James spoke to his lawyer, the prosecutor headed to the scene at Minor Avenue. It was 10:30 p.m. and there was little in the way of lighting except for the dim bulbs inside the house. The darkness only made the scene grimmer. 5 of the victims were in the living room and 6 were in the kitchen, which doubled as the dining area. The youngest victim was 4 years old. He was found on the floor of the living room with a gunshot to the side of his head. In his hand was an Easter egg wrapped in pink tinfoil. Back at the station, James's clothes and shoes were bagged and paraffin casts of his hands were taken to detect the presence of gunshot residue. His fingernails were scraped and his wallet was emptied. The only sign of anything untoward at that point was a small amount of blood spatter on James's shoes. The prosecutor discussed the case with the officers who were at the scene. James said he hadn't left the house all day, which meant he was home at the time of the shootings. He also claimed ownership of the guns on the dining table, which would be examined to determine if they were the weapons used in the shooting. But James had not confessed to being the shooter, and beyond the blood spatter on his shoes, there was nothing definitive to indicate he was the person who pulled the trigger. Despite the limited evidence available at the time, the prosecutor didn't want to take the chance that a person who had potentially killed 11 members of his own family, including children, would walk free. Not long after the clock struck midnight, James Rupert was charged with 11 counts of aggravated murder. After the scene examination was completed the following day, the bodies were removed from the house. By then, the media had caught wind of the shooting and turned up to take photos of the scene. None of them knew that there were 11 victims. One by one, the bodies were brought out of the house on gurneys. That was later referred to as a parade of death which lasted for more than 15 minutes. The autopsies of the victims took 3 days to complete. In total, there were 40 bullet wounds, with 26 of those bullets recovered from the bodies. 38 of the hits were lethal, which confirmed the person who fired them was a competent marksman. There seemed to be no rhyme or reason for the number of bullets each victim took. 2 of the victims had a single wound, but all of the others had multiple wounds. There was 12-year-old Anne, who had 4 shots in her head, each one of them fatal on its own. Charity's most significant wound was a bullet right through her heart. Leonard Jr.'s major wound was through his head. Alma was shot just once. The trajectory of some of the wounds was 30 to 40 degrees, which indicated the killer had stood over the victims and shot them at a downward angle. One of the children was more than 6 feet or 182 centimeters tall, and he had been shot twice in the chest at an upward angle. That indicated that he had been shot while standing up, which was the same finding for the bullets recovered from Leonard. The types of bullets used in the shooting were hollow points. Unlike standard rounds, hollow points are designed to expand on impact, which causes maximum internal damage. They also minimize the chance of the bullet passing through the body. The time of death for all 11 victims was around 6 p.m. on the day of the shooting, give or take 1 hour. When the autopsies were over, the family were farewelled at a funeral which was attended by more than 600 people. At the end of the formal proceedings, the 11 coffins were arranged in the shape of a cross. James was given the option to attend, but he declined. Meanwhile, investigators had some pressing questions they needed answered. First, why had none of the victims been able to get away? And why had no one heard anything? When officers canvassed the neighborhood, they couldn't find a single person who recalled hearing a commotion or any gunshots on the night of the murders. That was exceedingly strange because the scene examination indicated that at least 44 shots had been fired. Forensics determined that an Astra 22 caliber 9-shot pistol found at the scene had been fired 26 times. That meant it had been reloaded twice during the course of the shooting. Consider how long it takes to shoot 9 rounds, reload, shoot 9 more, reload, and shoot 9 more. And that's in between all the other rounds. And yet, no one outside heard anything. There were no reports of screams or gunshots, and no one inside was able to get away. One of the children's bodies was found within a couple of feet of the rear door, and another close to the front door, but they had been killed before they could make it out. That indicated the shooting had happened very quickly, and all of the victims had been incapacitated within a couple of minutes. James had a long history with weapons. On applications for jobs he had applied for over the years, James listed his hobby as guns. There was no doubt James owned the weapons found at the scene. He had admitted as much, but aside from his fingerprint being found on the barrel and trigger guard of the Astra, as well as a box of 22 caliber ammunition, there was nothing to prove he had pulled the trigger. The Sentinel revolver and a .357 Magnum recovered from the scene did not have any fingerprints. James had admitted he never left the home that day, which meant he was at the home during the shootings. But he had never come close to confessing that he was responsible for the murder of 11 of his family members. Investigators found a potential answer about why no one had heard anything when the owner of a local antique store came forward. His business also sold guns and ammunition, and the Thursday before the shooting, he recalled having a discussion with James about silencers. Another member of the community recalled several discussions with James about shooting a weapon through a pillow to dull the sound. Just a couple of days after the shooting, a grand jury indicted James on 11 counts of murder with the specification that it was a purposeful killing involving the death of 2 or more persons. That meant James was eligible for the death penalty, which at the time was the electric chair. Less than a week later, the prosecutor received a call from James's attorney to say his client was paranoid, extremely depressed, and suicidal. He asked that James be put under a 24-hour watch to ensure he was safe while in custody. The lawyer said the assessment of James's condition had been made by Dr. Mechanic, who was a renowned psychiatrist and professor at the University of Pennsylvania. He had been retained by the defense team to assess James's state of mind in order to inform their case going forward. The prosecutor spoke to the psychiatrist to understand more about James's condition. He asked if James had offered any insight into how the massacre occurred. That version of events offered the first explanation for what might have happened inside 635 Minor Avenue that night. According to James, he had come into the living room while his family was eating dinner. James was carrying his guns because he intended to go target shooting, which is something he did most weekend evenings. As he walked through the room, Leonard asked him, quote, "Will the rebate help the economy?" He was referring to a tax credit the government was offering to middle-class Americans to help boost the economy. James replied, quote, "Not much." Then Leonard asked him about his car. James drove a gray Volkswagen Beetle, which had been having a lot of trouble over the previous few years. James believed his big brother had been intentionally damaging his car in minor ways so that it was unreliable and annoying, but not enough that he would replace it. James suspected that he had been adding too much oil to the engine and fiddling with the plugs. On another occasion, Leonard had touched the bumper with his foot and it broke off completely a couple of weeks later, which only deepened James's suspicions. So when Leonard asked James about his car, it immediately triggered a response. He knew that Leonard would often make those kind of jibes in front of others so that James couldn't react. But that time, James saw red. He didn't care who saw what he did next. According to the psychiatrist, James used one of the guns to shoot Leonard point blank right there in the living room. Charity saw what happened and lunged towards James, but she fell short and he shot her too. Then he shot Alma. All of the adults were dead, and James registered that the people who had slighted him and caused him so much pain over the years were gone, and the only ones left were the children. James began shooting at them randomly, right where they sat. He would later say that he incapacitated them all immediately, but several of them survived their initial wounds. James told his psychiatrist that he went back and shot them again, some of them multiple times to, quote, "end the moaning and put them out of their misery." Before ending the conversation with the psychiatrist, the prosecutor asked him to meet with James's lawyer in person the next day. Then he called the jail and asked that a guard be posted outside James's cell at all times. The next day, Dr. Mechanic told the prosecutor that James was grossly psychotic and suffered from persecution complex and paranoia. His opinion was that James had been that way for at least 10 years. When James was done with shooting his entire family, he had thought about killing himself, but in the end, he decided that he couldn't bring himself to do it. Of course. James had also told the doctor that the youngest victim was on the toilet when he shot him, which didn't line up with the scene. The 4-year-old boy was the one found lying on the floor of the living room holding an Easter egg. There is an expectation of doctor-client privilege, especially when it comes to the kind of information the psychiatrist was discussing. But the doctor told the prosecutor that he was sharing that level of detail because they intended to enter a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. It was his professional opinion that James was insane and unfit to stand trial and should be held indefinitely at a psychiatric institution. He requested that the prosecutor arrange for the necessary psychiatric evaluations to happen as soon as possible so that the case didn't drag on for months, which would only worsen James's condition. The prosecutor listened to all of the points the psychiatrist had outlined, but the claim of insanity didn't sit well with him. Detectives had spoken to hundreds of people who knew James, from acquaintances to colleagues and his ex-employers. Each one of them agreed that although James was a bit of a loner, he appeared to be a perfectly normal guy. He was polite and unassuming, and he never made a scene or stood out in any way. He was the kind of person who faded into the background of life, not someone who had been on the edge of psychosis for 10+ years. The only thing people pointed out as particularly unusual was that James never went out with women. From their perspective, there had never been another woman in James's life since Alma. No one knew if that was because James wasn't interested or that women weren't interested in him. His previous employers also had nothing to say about James. They noted that he was extremely detail-focused, which meant that his work was slow. He was so meticulous that he often couldn't move on until he had examined every small component of the task, even when it wasn't necessary. With that in mind, the prosecutor had two choices. The first was to concede that James was insane and therefore unfit to stand trial. He would still be locked away, and that option would mean no lengthy trial. The second option would be for him to pursue James for murder on the grounds that he knew exactly what he was doing when he murdered 11 people in the living room of his mother's house. The prosecutor chose the latter. Sure enough, on the day of James's arraignment, his lawyers entered both a not guilty plea and a not guilty by reason of insanity plea. In simple terms, James was saying that he didn't do it, but if he did do it, he was insane at the time. The judge ordered a psychiatric evaluation to be conducted within 30 days, and because it was a death penalty case, he ordered that James be held without bond. A month later, James appeared in court again for his competency hearing. That would determine whether he was fit to stand trial. Before I go over their testimonies, I want to point out that I often relay information about someone's medical diagnosis or treatment on this show. I want to make it clear that I'm just repeating what the details were at that time. Often, when I cover a case that took place decades ago, the names of conditions or the types of treatments have since changed. So, if I were to explain that someone was diagnosed with Munchausen syndrome or Asperger's, those conditions have since been changed and renamed, but those were the diagnoses at the time of the respective cases. A lot of information about mental health has changed since the 1970s, but these were the opinions of the psychiatrists at the time of this trial. The first expert for the prosecution testified that James had signs of a paranoid psychotic state, which he said might have been caused by brain damage from the spinal meningitis he had as a teenager. A second expert stated that James was fit to stand trial even though he had a paranoid personality. The third expert said James was a loner who couldn't relate to people. He assessed James as having a paranoid personality with schizoid traits. Yet another expert testified that James had paranoid psychosis, feelings of persecution, and a misinterpretation of reality. While their findings were different, all four experts agreed that James was fit to stand trial. It was a surprise then that the defense did not call any experts of their own, even the psychiatrist who had initially assessed James and met with the prosecutor. According to his defense lawyers, while James was in jail, he had written letters to various people stating that he didn't trust his lawyers. He felt they were conspiring against him and they wanted him to take a deal and admit he was guilty rather than fight the charges in court or support his claim of insanity. For that reason, the defense lawyers argued that because James didn't trust them, he was unable to participate in his own defense, all of which made him incompetent to stand trial. After hearing both sides of the argument, the judge came down on the side of the prosecution. He ruled that James was competent to stand trial. During his ruling, the judge stated that having a mental illness does not mean a person is insane. All the prosecution had to prove was that the evidence demonstrated James was capable of understanding the nature and objective of the proceedings against him and was capable of assisting the defense. The judge felt that that threshold had been met. James was offered the option of either a jury trial or a three-judge panel. He took his chances with the judges, and James Rupert's murder trial began on June 16, 1975. Before opening statements, the three judges left the courtroom to visit the scene of the crime. At the time of the murders, it was determined that due to the severity of the crime, the scene would be preserved until any potential trial had concluded. That meant that 3 months after the Rupert family was wiped out, the judges would still be able to see the dried blood and brain matter which had stained the walls and floorboards since that night. Right next to those stains were framed family photos, partially drunk cups of coffee, Easter egg wrappers, and other everyday items found in a normal family home. By June, the weather had changed and it was warm and humid. All the windows and doors on the house had been boarded up to deter vandals from breaking in and having a look around the massacre house. That meant, by the time the judges walked in, there was no way to avoid the stench of death and decay which had been stagnating since the day of the murder. The dinner Charity had prepared for her family was still on the bench, and the food in the fridge had long since spoiled. When the judges were done, news reporters who were covering the story were given 5 minutes to look around the home as well. Inside, they noticed that there had been so much blood from the slayings that it had seeped through the floorboards and into the basement below. They also learned that forensic technicians had found tiny fingernails embedded into some of the walls. That proved that several of the children had survived long enough to try and escape from their uncle after he murdered their parents. The reporters could see where they had clawed away at the walls. Many of them were shocked by just how many bullet holes there were throughout the living room of the home. It seemed like no surface had remained untarnished by death. Back at the courtroom, the prosecution gave their opening statement. They had 101 exhibits to support their argument, including photos of the victims, crime scene diagrams, fingerprint evidence, and the guns found at the house. They also had expert testimony from psychiatrists, testimony from previous colleagues of James, as well as his barmates who had discussed guns and silencers with him. The prosecution intended to paint a picture of an intelligent but bitter man who killed his family not in a moment of madness, but because he wanted to get his hands on their cash. Leonard Jr. was a successful engineer with a good job, a nice home, rental properties, and money in the bank. He also had substantial life insurance policies in place for himself and Alma. According to the prosecution, James had basically nothing to his name. While he had $2,600 in assets, he owed his mother and brother $4,500 for all those small loans he had taken out over the years. Any money James once had been lost in the stock market, and the prosecution argued that he wanted the $300,000 in insurance money for himself. That number didn't include the value of Charity's or Leonard's homes or their stocks and bonds. They knew the defense's main argument would be that James had intended to go target shooting that day, but had been set off by Leonard's questions, which triggered a psychotic rage. But the prosecutor believed evidence would prove that James had been plotting to massacre his family for months. There were the conversations with barmaids and the antique store owner about using a silencer. There were also bank records showing James's financial position and witnesses who testified about his knowledge of the value of Leonard and Charity's assets. The prosecutor also directed the judge's attention to photographs taken in James's bedroom during the crime scene investigation. In the corner of his room was an open rifle carrying case, and on top of the dresser was a gun box for the Astra. The prosecutor argued that if James was going target shooting as he claimed, he wouldn't have carried his weapons downstairs out of their boxes and bags. Did James expect them to believe he tucked a loaded handguns into his pockets and casually walked downstairs cradling a loaded rifle? Everyone who ever watched James target shoot by the river remembered him carrying his weapons in their cases and loading them at the site. Also, in James's bedroom was a pair of bloody pants and a shirt which had been tucked inside his dresser, underneath other clothing. According to the prosecution, that indicated an attempt to conceal what he had done. According to James, after shooting his family members, some of them several times, he laid on the couch for 3 hours before calling the police. The prosecution believed that was so he could make sure his victims were all definitely dead. Scene investigators also found several books on psychology and paranoid schizophrenia inside James's room. According to the prosecutor, the only way James would be entitled to his mother and brother's estate would be if he was found not guilty by reason of insanity. All he had to do was make people believe he was insane, get sent away to some low-security asylum, and bide his time until he was determined not to be a threat to society anymore. Then he would walk away $300,000 richer. It was a simple plan. And it was a 2-for-1 deal. Not only would he have the money, he would also be free of the 2 people he blamed for ruining his life. 3 if you count Alma. Other evidence presented by the prosecution included that James's hands tested positive for gunshot residue and that the blood type on the pants in the drawer didn't match James but did match several of his victims. They also noted that no silencer or damaged pillows were ever found at the scene and that the rifle found in the kitchen hadn't been fired at the time of the shootings. The prosecution went on to argue that although James had never come out right and confessed to pulling the trigger 44 times, the evidence overwhelmingly proved that any claim of insanity, paranoia, and detachment from reality simply didn't hold up. His actions pointed to a man who knew exactly what he was doing. During the witness testimony, the prosecution called Charity's sister to the stand. She had visited James in jail not long after he was arrested. When she asked him what had happened, he broke down crying and said, "I don't know," and that the whole incident was a blank. She shared that there was a long history of mental illness on her side of the family, including institutionalization, suicides, and depression. Despite knowing that her nephew was likely responsible and culpable for the deaths of so many people, she declared that she supported James. After giving her testimony, she attended every day of the trial. When it came time for the defense to give their opening statements, they immediately moved for an acquittal. They were entitled to make that motion on the grounds that they believed the case against their client was insufficient to sustain a conviction. They argued that the prosecution didn't prove James knew what his brother was worth, that they hadn't proved a motive or proved intent to kill, and that they hadn't even proved James was the shooter. After the prosecution rehashed their entire argument, the panel of judges unanimously decided there was sufficient evidence to indicate aggravated murder. The motion for acquittal was denied. As anticipated, the defense presented James as legally insane and so mentally unwell that he was incapable of stopping himself from carrying out the slaughter of 11 family members. According to his lawyer, that wasn't just their opinion. 9 private psychiatric and 2 court-appointed experts all found him to be mentally ill at the time of the killings. They shared that the root of James's psychosis stretched back to childhood when he was apparently forced to spend time locked inside the chicken coop behind the family home. They also stated that Charity often told James she wished he was a girl and dressed him in feminine clothing and spoke to him like a baby. James told the psychiatrist that Charity would make him sleep naked next to her, and on at least one occasion he woke up to find himself in a compromising position with his mother. His feelings towards Charity got worse in adulthood when he discovered he was impotent. As an adult, he had at least one homosexual encounter, and besides Alma, there were no other romantic relationships in his life. Being emotionally cast aside by his mother, combined with a lifetime of living in Leonard's shadow, formed the foundation of a mental collapse which was decades in the making. It all culminated in the moment he killed 11 people, who the defense asserted were so dear to him. 3 of them were so dear to him that he couldn't even remember their names. Several of the psychiatrists were called to testify in court. One told the judges, quote, "His ego was just completely overwhelmed by his rage. This suppressed rage he'd been accumulating over 10 years or more, actually since childhood." According to the defense, the 3 hours James spent on the couch after the murders were to contemplate, which he decided against only because it was considered a mortal sin in Catholic doctrine. Here's yet another person who committed murder. In fact, he murdered 11 members of his own family, but that was where he drew the moral line. Okay. The defense painted a picture of a deeply paranoid person. Not only did he distrust his own lawyers, he was convinced that the FBI had bugged his jail cell. He also told his lawyers that his brother had reported him to the authorities for being a communist. According to the defense, all of that combined to make James incapable of distinguishing right from wrong, or resisting the urge to annihilate his entire family. He lived in a distorted version of reality where he routinely misinterpreted ordinary events as evidence of a vast government conspiracy targeting him. His paranoia was deeply rooted, and his lawyers claimed it was so profound and so consuming that there was no way it could have been faked. It was anyone's guess which way the judges would decide, especially with the testimony about James's mental state. But at the 11th hour, the prosecution caught wind of a person they hadn't known about when preparing their case for trial. A person whose testimony could call James's insanity defense into question. Wanda Bishop had worked as a barmaid at James's favorite bar for just 4 days. During that time, she met James, and after she stopped working there, they met up several times a week. Over the next 8 months, they fell in love. When the prosecutor met with Wanda to discuss the relationship, she told him she knew James wasn't gay because he couldn't keep his hands off her. But she did acknowledge that through all of their intimate encounters, they never had intercourse. Wanda recalled that she met with James on the evening of his birthday. Before leaving that night, he told her he needed to go home to sort out a problem with his mother. When she asked what the problem was, he told her she wanted him to pay back the money he owed, and she had said something along the lines of, "If you have enough money to go out drinking every night, you have enough to pay me rent or the debt you owe. And if you don't, you can get out of my house." James left the bar that night, but came back a half an hour later. When Wanda asked if he had sorted out the problem with his mother, he said, quote, "Not yet." They stayed together drinking until the early hours of the next morning. The prosecution interpreted Wanda's story as a clear demonstration that James had planned to kill his mother, and probably Leonard, as he owed his brother money also. The day after telling Wanda he needed to sort out a problem with Charity was Easter Sunday, the same day James murdered his entire family. But Wanda's testimony also proved something else. James had told his lawyer that he had never been in a romantic relationship since Alma. That tied into his projected image of being a loner and emotionally detached, which were the foundations of his insanity defense. Having a relatively normal relationship with a woman and discussing his mother being a problem suggested that James was not as socially cut off or mentally disturbed as the defense wanted the court to believe. By the end of the trial, more than 91 witnesses had testified. During closing statements, the two sides repeated their cases, and the 3 judges left the courtroom to determine James's fate. Just 4 hours later, they announced that they had reached a verdict. James Rupert was found guilty of 11 counts of aggravated murder. The judges specified their decision was a 2-to-1 finding, with 2 of the judges agreeing he was guilty and 1 dissenting. Because the verdict was not unanimous, James could not be sentenced to the death penalty. The defense team immediately stated that they would appeal the conviction on the grounds that the decision needed to be unanimous. At the time, under Ohio law, a verdict in a capital murder case required a full agreement of all 12 jurors, but the verdict in this case had come from a 3-judge panel. The defense argued that a unanimous decision was still required in a capital case, even among judges. Before the appeal against James's conviction could be heard, the judges had to determine his sentence. They listened as the defense pleaded for leniency, arguing that he was a mentally ill man in need of treatment. Then came the prosecution's insistence that he was a cold-blooded killer who deserved no mercy. In the end, they sentenced him to 11 life terms. In August of 1975, James was transferred to a psychiatric facility after a prison psychiatrist found him to be delusional and depressed. 2 years later, Ohio's First District Court of Appeals reversed James's conviction on the grounds that he was not given proper advice about waiving his right to a jury trial. According to their 22-page decision, James had believed there was a requirement for unanimous verdict, whether he chose a jury or a panel of judges. A year later, a retrial was ordered, but he was delayed by James's claim that he was facing double jeopardy, which he wasn't. Double jeopardy is generally for anyone who is acquitted of a crime. An acquittal does not prove someone is innocent. It just means the prosecution could not prove their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The law was put into place so a prosecutor can't try someone over and over until they get a guilty verdict. Unless some major new evidence is found, a person cannot be tried for a crime they have previously been acquitted of. James was not acquitted. He was found guilty, and that conviction was reversed. So it was as if he had never been tried the first time. If James's case was an example of double jeopardy, then that would mean no person who ever won an appeal would ever be able to be retried, which isn't the case. When that was settled, the second trial got underway. In 1982, James was back in court, that time in front of a jury of his peers. The second trial was held in a town 125 miles or 200 kilometers away from Hamilton. James's lawyers had successfully argued that he couldn't receive a fair trial in his hometown thanks to the national attention the case had gained. Hamilton had become synonymous with the massacre, and the defense believed that public opinion was safety.
Final 10 seconds! Just embrace the light! Nowhere yet! Going to overtime! The current score is 0-2.
The deadliest single-shooter murder.
Time to switch things up, including which side you're on.
James's parents treated him like he
You'll
wouldn't
need a
amount to
top-notch
anything.
team to win
But
this
it's
one.
even more unfortunate that he became a monster who perfectly lived up to his parents' expectations. Thanks so much for letting me tell you this story. If you're a fan of true crime, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave a comment. If you'd like to support the show, check out our merchandise at the Sigma.
Groot's always with me. You'll see what I mean.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I'm your host,
Look at
narrator,
us.
Giles.
We practically match.
This is haute couture, darling. Designed by Jumbo Carnation himself.
Oh, my costume just kind of came with my powers.
And I'm practically seething inside about how good it looks.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
I like you. For now. Trust me, that can change in a heartbeat. On your toes.
Thank you. I will have my revenge for that.
Help get that vehicle to its destination.
I suppose that helped. I suppose that helps.
Claim your trophy, Bloodstone.
Yo soy el final.
Get that vehicle moving again!
My doctor's
Almost there! Don't turn back now!
I will have my revenge for that.
Co-op time!
Fear Magneto!
Don't mind me.
Vehicle reached the checkpoint. Keep up the momentum.
Leave them to consume.
They
I'm back. And now there's hellfire to pay.
Final score, 3, 2, 2.
Oh my goddamn questions. That's what I'm talking about. Fuck the interview.
Push the daisies again. Is I look at the distance, and I just see the tail. I just see the tail rushing away around the corner.
This is my original gaming Marvel friend.
I'll be like, why?
Oh, and
Why res me?
This is my original duo person. We just don't play anymore because I annoy him too much.
No.
Oh.
No, it's because you were playing with Nightblade. The dude is not. He's just weird.
Like, that was the second time.
He didn't like you, and it was so nice to him, and he just was like,
He especially didn't like me when I crushed him.
I don't know why.
He got mad at me after that game we played. He got hella mad at me.
What's good? Down to play comp?
Well, yeah, because I told him, I was like, Nightblade, bro. Why are you...
No, you be yelling at me.
He was playing Strange. And you know what he did? I remember it so vividly, like it was night and day. He went to go 1v1 a Spider-Man as Strange.
Did you win?
Nah, we lost. We lost that game. And I remember...
Did he win the duel?
No.
Oh, shit.
He's a very good Strange, though. You can't say he's not. He's very good.
Nah, he's good when he wants to be, and he doesn't want to be a lot of the time.
But he throws me through portholes and weird shit.
I just seen the dude was chat banned for like 2036. Like, I was like...
He's chat banned till 2036.
Every time
he doesn't chat, he writes abuse.
He writes abuse.
He writes abuse.
Yeah.
So like...
Who was this?
Somebody you don't want to play with.
Nightblade?
Nightblade.
Yeah.
If you see the blade of the night, run.
He's nice. He's funny though. So.
Yeah, he's funny. He types up a bunch of jokes, but you won't see none of them. He only types a Shelly.
Yeah, he's very shy. I've only heard him talk a few times. Remember, you made him say hello to you one time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it was like he was like this. He was like this. Hi. And then I was like, that was it. That's all I heard from him.
The voice changer.
I was like, shut up.
I want to practice something with you in the range, Rachel.
If I had to speak,
You want me in the range or go to post my BRB?
That too. We're gonna practice canceling your BRB.
No, you know what I've been practicing?
I get fed to the fucking wolves all night.
That's so mean.
I like this dude. This dude is funny, bro.
But no. What I really want to do, I want to see how the rocket team up works with the Gambit damage addition.
With the what damage?
Oh,
Gambit.
Yeah.
Oh.
He gets a damage buff too.
Who do you think you want to be today?
You know what I do want to see, actually? I want to see...
Cover your ears. Jubilee is here.
I want to see what
I'm gonna put this at the spawn door. Vita, I put it at the spawn door just for you. There's spawn door.
Wow, thank you. I mean, as if that I would have just got back to spawn from the get, but yeah, all of that.
No, we're gonna put it at their spawn door.
Oh, bet. Love that. You know, there's a sweet, like, right between the first and the second point, there's a sweet hole down there that it looks pretty cool, dude. Like, you should throw it down there so I can just experience that black hole. That's pretty sick. Or better yet, just put me in the middle of the fire.
You're so mean.
Swear to God, it's
So
like a game
basically,
of
you're
Red
the
Rover,
same.
bro.
I suck.
Just be like, throw it behind him. And be like, Red Rover, we send Buggy over.
That's so mean. Oh, they're saying I'm shit.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you both said something.
They're right here. Oh, the difference.
I will promise I will try to remember to move it. Herb says it all the time.
For like 5 seconds, bro. I had to mute my mic. Actually, I didn't even need to mute it. It was nothing but air coming out. Like,
Alright, stop making me laugh.
Low key, like, teared up when the homie said that. I just, I can't.
Into my dark side.
Hey, check it. When you're about to throw that over, just put in the chat, Red Rover, Red Rover. Dude, over. Oh, shit. Oh,
I can't laugh anymore.
damn.
You're surrounded by a strong aura of death.
Just tell him it's a prisoner
it's an
exchange.
aura of feminine. But it's an easy mistake to make.
One of Apocalypse's horses. The battle starts in 5, 4.
Is
I'm gonna
he
grab one
suitable
of them
for
here.
you?
This might kill me, but let's make things spicy.
Why is this the only thing people want to talk about anymore?
What do you say, Rachel? Oh, there's a Johnny above us.
I'll kill Johnny. Wait, above you right now?
Nah, he fell back. Oh, Becky tried to get me.
Hey, I got mag. Wait, back up. Why are we fighting in there? If I don't fight. No. We don't want to be there. Now I want to be there.
You don't want to be there.
Hey, Hella, go Bucky,
This party isn't over till I say so.
I'll kill a John.
They've made it halfway! Stop them!
In his final
Hey, we gotta back up. Well, that's one, and that's good. Picked up.
There's still a chance to stop them!
Those beacons don't grow on trees, you know.
I got Johnny boy. I'm gonna get Bucky too if you help me out. Bro, okay. See how? There's a Bucky to the right. We're so close.
That Hella got a headshot. Hella damn near killed her.
Why? Okay, this dude is on one.
Someone scratched my back. You're welcome.
Wait.
They have no more support. Oh.
Just let me go put the up there.
Remember, you gotta put it behind them. Say Red Rover, Red
No,
Rover.
put it in a spawn door for you.
Oh god, I
Yeah,
didn't know,
vote.
I didn't know we were backing up like that. Hey Rocket, I think now might be the time. Now it's... Oh shit.
Little shit.
Only 60 seconds left.
What's up, Emma? I'm glad you came to stay, homie.
Hey, Bucky on point.
Bucky's shooting me.
The lingering will. Yeah, no, that dude. That dude definitely lingered. We allowed him to die.
How did you know their name? I haven't even used them.
It's this thing. It's the reading's pretty sick.
A queen.
You set yourself up for that one. Hey, oh hey.
Hey, look at Mag right here.
I'm trying, bro. But he's got that big old sword. Well, I got 3 bullets. Break that shield. Now's our chance while that was. We have more people here.
Going to overtime.
Armed and dangerous!
You should come back.
Nah. I died there.
This Johnny's a hard tool.
We can actually still make it. It's kind of worth it for you to die here.
Get back, Buck.
Hey, reset that.
Can we get
I
that
don't know if
cover?
you want to
No,
keep that.
I gotta touch the point. I gotta touch the point. Wow.
Good, they use both.
They use both support ults. Yeah.
Hey, yo, beat Patty, bro. Let me combo with you as Bucky, bro. If that's cool. You gotta fall back, though.
Pretty sure I'm technically.
Straight got
Hey,
left
Black
behind.
Cat's trying to make her way over here.
They ain't got a black cat. Did they?
Somebody jumping over there. Or is it, Envious?
Oh, I see him.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, Strange, hit it.
Hold him.
No, we wait. Okay, yeah.
Oh no, I already did it.
I would've waited. Hey, I got the rocket. Wait, hold on. Help me out here. Damn it, almost killed him. Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, Bucky's over here, Bucky.
Only 60 seconds left.
Yeah, I don't know why we. Angel.
Ulted.
Yeah, no, that's a strange. Why? You could have waited because
We can get him.
the rocket killed him.
Oh, he's
They're separated from the tanks.
Yeah, they are. Hey, you got an ult here, brother.
Go back up, man. Go back up, man.
Back up, bro.
Just get out of there, Strange. Just get out of there, Strange.
Wait, get out of there. Guys, get out of there. Fine. Lord have mercy.
Keep backing up. Everybody back up. If you got 2 feet, back it the hell up.
You don't say less. I'm about to TP out of here, brother.
Oh.
Like,
This Johnny is way too aggressive. He is not being punished enough.
I'm trying, bro. I'm getting shot at by everybody and the mama.
Yeah. I'm on Normandy Beach with you.
Yeah. But like, we already lost the point.
Only 60 seconds left.
Ah, I hate this fucking bridge!
Supernova! Don't give them another inch. Or else.
Rocket, back up, buddy.
well, I was trying, so.
You're good.
Down to 30 seconds.
not gonna get me. You're gonna get me.
What?
The current score is 0-3.
What is
Well,
it?
at least they
Bucket of
got
names.
25 seconds left.
Which side you're on. You'll need
You
a
can do it.
top-notch team to
I
win
like
this.
No, you
dancing.
can't. I just think, bro, Jubilee, bro. Like, we could have ulted to get in there. I mean, I know the.
Hurt.
Yeah.
Where's hurt?
Yeah.
We straight though.
Yeah, I know you're not talking on one moment. And when you said, oh, I just got it.
My bad, Herb.
Round 2.
It literally popped up when you said, oh. If we can do something about this Johnny and they DPS you, we might have a chance. Otherwise,
Yeah.
30
I'm trying,
seconds before you
dog.
attack.
The
Get
press
ready.
was.
That Johnny's way too confident.
If you keep that ammo off you, I swear to God, I just like I heard, man.
Go ahead, Mags. I know this
No,
is
let's see what
a
I'm gonna got something to say
signing
about
up
it.
with Apocalypse.
Heck yeah. Matter of fact, go up this door right here.
The battle starts in 5.
Like he's obviously planning that door. Don't go out that door.
1.
Just wanna feed him. That make no sense.
Look who's here.
See, like when I don't got things I gotta deal with, bro, it make my life, bro. You feel me? Like. I don't know what Johnny is. I'm gonna try and pull him, so get ready for that. And I got him. Lo and behold, surprise, surprise. Yep.
Hey, somebody heal. Hello.
Yeah. I hear you, bro. Good.
Damn it.
Like this Emma, bro. I got some kills me every time, bro. Like I can't. Oh shit. Wait. I kill him now. I kill. Look at me kill. Help me kill this mag. I'm begging. Okay, we got him. Don't let anybody die here. Don't let anybody. Shield, brother. Shield as much as you can. There you go. Hey, I got ult here. My ult. I'm ult. I need y'all to help me. Hey, help me kill that ult, and my ult keeps. She's gonna come for me. I'm gonna waste her ult out. I'm gonna die anyway. Just win that, yeah.
And he's behind us.
I'll deal with it. Okay.
Jenny's behind us.
Look at that, I pulled the
Oh
Johnny.
my
All
god,
right.
I could get...
Look at that, I got you. See that? It's this fucking Emma, bro.
Rebirth is not how we do things in hell.
Only 60 seconds left. Vehicle reached a checkpoint.
Hey, game, back up. Hey, look at the Bucky up. Look at the DPS. Look at the DPS. We're gonna try and kill this. Be healed. Doing it.
Stand idly by while our nation is defiled.
behind us? Oh. Damn, bro.
Horsemen of Apocalypse don't go down so easy.
I think I know it. I know. Let's get fixed. Okay, hey Strange, brother. I'm on my second ult here. Can you ult, brother? Makes me so mad when it happens. Johnny's dead, bro. I need you to push before I die. Go, 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 we're pushing. You're not so...
I have ult.
Behind us on the right, behind us on the right. Now look left, look left. Yeah, there you go. Just kill him.
Again! Again! Armed and dangerous!
No, please. What the fuck, dude?
Who? You?
Me? Bro. What the fuck?
The whole team was it. I died.
Cancel it, dog. What the fuck?
Down to 30 seconds.
How long have we got? 25, 30 seconds.
The Strange is like allergic to shield. Got your back, buddy.
This is real firepower!
Ah!
Score. 1,
What
2, 3.
happened?
Well, you can't expect to win them all.
I don't think this.
Nah.
You did not.
I'll be honest, me if it fun, it was that Strange, bro. He only ulted once. Once the entirety of that game, bro. Like once, dude.
That fucking Johnny was a problem. He was pure herpes.
Bro, I started to handle him, but what's it, like that Emma pick, bro, that you did, like, I don't know, like it helped me out a lot, cause like I was freed up, to like deal with him.
Oh.
But what I was curious about was this, bro. And like, that Strange knew he wasn't doing no damage.
Who wasn't?
The Strange. But then
No,
he'd
he
throw
wasn't.
up. But then he'd start like, he would try and get his shots in, and the moment he put that shield down, that one moment is when we get grabbed, fired, magged, hit. Like,
Look, we got a perma ban Bucky. I'm sorry, sir. These buckets are outrageous this season.
bro, them fucking mags are outrageous, bro. And like, dog, I couldn't do
The
nothing,
mags are.
brother. I couldn't do anything, bro. Like, I kept trying, but I kept getting pressed. Like,
You got 14 kills.
Yeah.
You did something. You got SVP.
it wasn't enough though. I just couldn't, like, tell you, if I just could not get them off me.
Because Johnny was.
You see this? You see this skin that Meter's wearing right now? The only thing is missing is the shades.
Which skin?
Facts.
The Winter Soldier skin from the second movie.
Am I like 20 seconds behind? Because I'm.
You want to be today?
I played against that dude, the Pacquiao. Can't remember what the.
Cover your ears. Jubilee is
Easy,
here.
Johnny.
Now, who am I gonna banish from this match?
What? Wonder is it Spider-Man?
Or villain? I'm not judging.
Screw the light. I'm giving into my dark side.
Seconds before you attack. Get ready.
You are facing enough battles already, Jubilation. Perhaps you should sit this one out.
No can do, Eric. If I stop fighting, I've got to deal with what a mess my life is. Right now, I'd rather just blow stuff up.
I'm certain that can be arranged, but...
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3,
You're one to talk.
2,
How are things
1.
with your kids going?
All you need to do is capture the mission area. Go.
Hey.
I'm proud to be an X-Man. We're more than just a team.
I don't want to lose this
We're
one.
a family.
I'm trying.
There is an Angela behind us.
I know, fall back. I'll help you with that. Wait, what? There's another dude behind it. There was a Cyclops.
Hey, I've got Angela.
Okay, I'm coming. You got follow.
We lost some support, lost some DPS, lost both supports.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah. That's fine. We're good. Hey, fuck me. We lost the lady. Just wait this out. Hey, do me a favor, go out this door right here.
This is the best place to strike.
Come here. I'm gonna go that way. With that damage.
Time for Jean Grey to shine.
We just make a big ass circle.
Pretty much.
God, I'm sick of you.
I got Angela. I'll get her. Bitch.
I'll be on Angela for the rest of this game. I need you to put. Focus on the healers and out.
Yeah. Get Angela off our
Jubilee. Walk for it. Hey, break shot.
We are undefeatable.
Hey, I got one, bro. Watch out for that Cyclops.
Yeah, you do. Hold on a second. Hey, get these 2 supports right here. Get these 2 supports right here.
I can't. I'm like, I was healing for this Angela while you guys. But I will grab this Angela. I'm gonna handle her. I'm going there.
Trouble has arrived.
Oh, you know what? I got you.
Thank you.
I need y'all to push with me, bro. I can't. I know that Angela's a thing, but you gotta help me out here. I'm gonna be pouring back here. Okay, guys. Can we heal or something so I can live? That's fantastic, bro. I can live.
I couldn't. We had Angela got ulted by Angela.
I get it.
We lost both supports. We gotta go.
Yeah, we do. Hey, can we get another counter? Like, go Bucky, bro. Like, ain't no way one Angela can get us like that while I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, here, I'll get in, I'll touch. I don't know how, but I'm not.
Wow, I don't know what's good.
Screw the light. I'm giving into my dark side.
No, night.
Me?
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Where'd he go? He can't. Then we're gonna go one side.
Steve wanted to try to save you, kid.
And he'll have a ton of heals.
Just like me.
We got.
Please. We ain't got nothing in common, old man.
Sure we do. When I was your age, I was already at war too. And it turned